master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
It's the same battle, Mr. Myers. We've been at it before. They want to addict these kids, this time to an e-cigarette, which has a chemical that's addictive. We know what it leads to. Sadly, it leads to tobacco addiction, disease, and death.
I'm going to get you addicted to nicotine. I have a customer for life. We have hundreds of cases nationwide where people have gotten sick or died using these devices.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Addiction is being fueled by kid-friendly flavors and kid-friendly cool marketing. It is outrageous that these companies specifically market their bad products to kids. Today, right now, it would appear the wildfire of e-cig use among teenagers, high schoolers, middle schoolers has not let up.
There is a moral panic over it.
There is a moral panic,
and they can't find anything wrong with it, so they're hell-bent to find something.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. So, I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Hey guys, and good evening to another Friday night of us bashing our heads against the wall and having some fun. We got a lot of stuff that happened this week and a lot of action on the Twitters. We'll be peppering the show throughout tonight with the Twitter action because Kevin is the he likes to Twitter, and I think this week. I've been pretty good on Twitter too. This is the time and this is the place, guys. We've been saying this for a little while. We have nothing left to lose, and I'm all in on scallywag and skullduggery and doing all the things. So we're going to we're going to have some fun. Bill Tarling is in the room and he's already being informative. If you are not already a member of the or following or whatever on the Bill Tarling, you need to be on the Bill Tarling and the Vape Distortion, because that guy, he has more time than I do, because I only can do this in between, work and shit. But Bill has become prolific in finding stuff that even I didn't know. And he's feeding all of this information to everybody willing to absorb it. So everybody should be following the Bill and the Vape Distortion group. But let me bring the redheaded ginger from Ohio, Kevin. Let's add Kevin to the stream. Hey, there's Kevin. Kevin, why are you so small? There. Now I feel better. We're the same size now, so this is better.
Is that better?
So what the hell's been going on with you this week?
7.2% of daily vapors are 7.2. I think Lindsay found it. I think Michelle Minton found it. I think Dr. Gardner found it. 7.2. So it went up. I forgot what last year was already, but smoking went to like 1%. Patrick, 1.
Holy shite! Demetrius is typing numbers in and plus signs and He says, what the hell happened to his keyboard? I have no idea what happened to Demetrius's keyboard.
What?
But he's in the chat room talking about breaking stuff. But before we bring our guest in, because he has appeared and he is now in the green room, he is in the backstage area. Let's say howdy to everybody that we haven't already said. Oh, and by the way, Kevin, I want to take a special moment to congratulate Yolande Jeffries.
Yes.
Who has accepted a position in New Zealand working with Dr. Marwa Glover in the Center for Tobacco Research and Indigenous Peoples. I don't know but they're going to be working together.
Yes.
And I'm very proud and happy that Yolande comes to our show and that we've had Dr. Glover on the show before to find out that we have another Kiwi that watches the show. Who is as learned and intelligent as Yolande. But Amanda's here, Shannon's here, Bill, I said Bill was here, Victor and Megan and Demetrius and other peoples. There's other peoples. But we are live on the Twitters and on Facebook and on YouTube. And luckily the program that we use allows me to see all of your comments no matter where you are watching and absorbing the show. So we will respond as we can. But anyway, over the years, I've crossed paths with our guest multiple times. We've met maybe once or twice at events and, just passed each other and said hello or whatever. But he always, before, back in old timey days, there was this group called the Vaping Militia that I was a part of. And he was a supporter of the Vaping Militia. He always helped us out and participated in advocacy and did whatever he could for us. But he always appears like in the chat room on the show, and he always seems to have like really spot on comments. So I figured we should just have him on the show because that way he doesn't have to type because he says smart things. Not all the time because he is from Massachusetts, but most of the time. And I know that you're like in a mass hole in undercover. But Steve Sapir is on the show, and let's make sure because he didn't come in time to test his audio. So let's bring him in. Howdy, Mr. Sapir.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Everything looks good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction.
He's like a rock star.
Heritage.
Look at all those guitars back there.
Yeah, I love them. I've been collecting these since I was a kid.
I could collect them, but I could never play them.
I have the same problem.
I was a percussionist. I can bang on shit, but I can't delicately strum strings. I can't do that.
Oh man, it's cathartic to concentrate and make a commitment to learn a piece. It's I don't know, something I dig. I've been digging it since I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, it's been over a decade since I've sat in a drum kit, so it might take me a minute to get my timing back, but
get back into it, man. It feels good.
It could be like riding a bicycle because last year I bought a bike and tried to get on it and ride, and it took me an hour and a half to figure out how just to start. So Beantown Vapor, like you've been around for a while. When did Beantown?
We started originally as a hardware company back in it was late 2009. My vapor story, I'll just tell it really quick. I have 4 daughters, and my daughter at the time said to me, Dad, why do you want to die? She was just a kid. She was 7 or 8 years old. She said, how come you want to die? And I said, I don't want to die. What makes you think Dad wants to die? And she said, well, you smoke, and smoking kills you. So you must want to die. You know that smoking kills you. And it just killed me that was what I was teaching my kid. So she wrote a little book, like an 8-page book, and it had heartbreaking pictures like, here's what it looks like, me walking down the aisle without my dad. Here's what my dad's lungs look like, just horrible, horrible stuff. So at the end of it, there was a little signature where I had to sign and promise not to smoke. And I signed it, and I lied. And I smoked, and I would, put on a hat and gloves and blow it up and wash my hands and hope nobody would catch me. But I just felt shitty. about it. And I was a gadget guy, and I started reading about this technology that was, primarily Chinese technology at the time. None of that stuff had really made it stateside, or it was very rare stateside. When people first saw me vaping, they thought I was using drugs. But I started ordering these gadgets from China, and even the Chinese liquid, you couldn't get liquid stateside at the time, or at least I wasn't initiated into the vapor world enough to know where to get it. So I started on really cheap Chinese liquid, really cheap Chinese gear. But the thing that blew me away about it was literally the first time I puffed it. As horrible as it tasted, I knew I was never going to smoke again, and I never did. And for a guy that would leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning for a pack of cigarettes, if I had run out, I was a nicotine junkie. I mean, I still am a nicotine addict, but at least it doesn't come with the tar and the ash and the 5,000 chemicals, 88 known carcinogens. But yeah, I would go out in the middle of the night to get them, and it just blew my mind that this one puff of this crazy device that I had gotten overseas, it was like that. And I tried everything: Wellbutrin, patches, gums, hypnosis, cold turkey. Nothing, absolutely nothing worked. I was committed to smoking. But so after that, I said, "Oh my God, everybody needs to know about this. Everybody needs to know." My grandmother had died due to complications from a few things, one of them being her tobacco addiction. And I just felt like everybody needed to know it. So I started to, buy the devices, give them to friends. And then, it started to spread, and folks asked me, how do I get them? So I just threw up a quick site. I was, I worked in IT and financial services my whole life. So it wasn't really a job. It was just something I was doing to help out some friends. And it turned into a business that I loved.
Wow. I mean, that I need a sound bite of your daughter asking that question.
It was heart wrenching. I have the little book that she wrote. I should post that. I should take some shots of it.
Yep.
That's powerful, dude. I mean, that whole thing is I've told my story on here a bunch of times, and I did the same thing. I promised that I would quit, and then I went and did everything possible not to quit. I snuck extra packs of cigarettes, and it's awful. What we'll do, people will skip meals. Like, if you don't have money and you have enough money to buy something to eat or something to smoke, 99.9% of the time they're going to buy smokes instead of eating. I mean, I was
talking to a guy today about it, and he said, well, you can't really, because we were talking about the total number of, tobacco-related deaths in the country that's, hitting around 500,000 Americans a year. And he said, yeah, but they're choosing that. And I said, and he's not a guy that's ever had a tobacco addiction. I said, I understand what you're saying, but if you've ever had a tobacco addiction, you might not see it as a choice. Once tobacco gets, into your head, of course it's a choice to pick it up.
Well, here it is. This is I oftentimes, you hear the people say, well, if I could do it, if I quit cold, because we're our own worst enemies. Ex-smokers are part of the problem. Well, I quit without anything. You can do it too. You're just weak. Yeah. And it's a load of BS. I've known people that have shot up heroin and never did it again. And I know other people that first taste, and they're in for life.
Tobacco companies that design their formulations to keep you hooked. It's insidious. It's on purpose. And I think that these guys lost their class action lawsuits back in the 90s because it was definitively proven that they knew they were harming people. They knew the goal was to hook them. And it was definitively proved. And that's, that gave birth to basically the business partnership between the federal government and tobacco. Was they got caught doing it. Everybody knows,
We had Gerlitz on the show 2 weeks ago, and guys like him and the guy from The Insider, he said the guy's name on the show when he was on, that they worked together when they went to these hearings together. If it wasn't for those guys, those were the inside guys that brought all the secrets to the table.
Yeah.
So yeah. Did you get your flu shot, Kevin? Demetrius is asking you a question about your flu shot. I think the Surgeon General and him are talking about you behind your back.
Give him a kiss for me, Timmy.
Massachusetts just created a flu shot requirement to send your child back to school.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I am totally not anti-vaxxer, but the moment this is the people. These people don't quite understand. I am pro-mask. I am pro-vaccination, but there are people in this country that would be fully like in line. They would go and get in line and get the shot, but the moment you tell them they fucking have to do it,
oh my God,
it's like the fucking masks.
If
everybody knows. I mean, deep down inside, I think everybody knows wearing a mask is helpful and you should do it and so forth and so on. But the moment that you say you have to do this, that's when people are going to fucking put their spurs in. They're going to dig in, and they're not going. I mean, they're just not gonna. So
that's so American.
This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, and you tell me I gotta do something. Fuck you. You know, this is
to prove your point. Everybody's outraged about the flu shot requirement to put your kid back into school, but it's been a law for the last 50 years that we need to get, measles, mumps, rubella,
diphtheria. There's
those
like
are all mandatory. It's just one more, But now that you're telling me I have to do it, I'm kind of pissed.
Well, I mean, people. I mean, when they put in the polio vaccine, you think about it. They put that in right after like the polio had wiped out all these people and shit, and people were like, "Give it to me and I'll take it." Right. But I actually have treated. I'm a physical therapist. I treat old people. I mean, I'm a geriatric therapist. I work a lot with old people.
Oh, and I knew you were in the medical field. I didn't know it was physical therapy.
But in the age group that I treat is the people that were children during the big polio outbreak, and we get people that are polio survivors, and they have this thing called post-polio syndrome, and it's polio coming back.
Wow.
So I mean it's insipid. Diseases are insipid. This virus is insipid. It's going to people that have recovered from it years from now. Could very well, and they're saying that people have long-lasting lung damage, and there's neurological issues that are stemming from this, or could potentially stem from this. So, 40 years from now, when I'm retired, hopefully, and living on a beach somewhere, other therapists will have to deal with this. But so anyway, back to the early days. So you started out as a hardware company, or you were selling egos and things that you were importing in 2009, 2010, huh?
Yep. It was funny because all the devices would break, and people would want to replace it. It was terrible. And China working with China, it was funny at the time. You'd order, 20 black, 5 purple. They'd send you all green and say, "What's the difference? You got 30." It's like the Chinese. I just have a different. I'm like, this is the United States. So when somebody orders green, they want green. It was just funny. But they're really nice people. I mean, I enjoyed working with them. They just don't give a shit about what you ordered. You got a box. What's the problem?
Yeah. Once it's in your hands, they don't. Once it's in the box and it's postage has picked it up, and they're all the way over in China, and you're in Massachusetts, and they don't really care, and obviously that's evolved a little bit, and I think maybe some of the Chinese companies have really good customer service.
No, they're much better now.
I've dealt with a couple, and it's hit or miss, but I'm fairly proud of I made a request for something from Anakin and have had perfect help from them, so I can't complain about them. And God, I use so many Nautilus coils. I think I own stock in Aspire.
It's an amazing invention. Is Demetrius in the chat? Oh man, now I'm nervous. I'm going to say something stupid.
Why? He says stupid stuff. He's not perfect.
He's such a smart guy.
I owe him a lot, but I'll bust his balls if there's something to bust him about.
He's such a good guy, but he's so knowledgeable on this topic. He's a guy on this topic.
He's not wearing pants though, Steve.
Oh yeah. I'm not either.
There you go.
Slide into my DMs, Demetrius.
Well, if you slide in anywhere else, Phil might be, really jealous.
I'll take them both.
So yeah, if you see there on screen, he's already sharing the love with you there.
That's that. Yeah, he really is. He's awesome. He's the voice of reason in this industry.
Yes.
I love the way he cuts.
Don't get him mad.
Yep.
Don't get him mad.
No, I know you have to. He really is just a level guy. He's not a zealot. He's not, this politically he's just the facts. And that's, I'm an older gentleman. I appreciate when folks just stick to the facts.
Older?
Yeah, I'm going to be 50 in February. I'm an old bastard.
So you're like 6 months older than me.
Oh, really?
And you're like 12 years younger than Kevin.
Kevin, how old are you?
52.
Are you really?
Yeah.
We are old bastards in vape years. We really are.
Oh yeah. Of course.
So, yeah, and it's really I know that Demetrius and I are like a few months apart, and I figured you and I were about a few months apart. So yeah, I mean, we're all of us old timers are in that 40 to 50,
Isn't
but
it a shame to see what's happened in this industry? Isn't
dude,
it heartbreaking?
When I say this all the time, when I started vaping in 2010, and then 2011 or 2012, and whenever we got really deep into the advocacy, I would never have been able to predict that a decade later I'd be doing this still. I would have thought for sure that we would have won by now, that somehow the truth would have come through, and that we would have finally been able to get, people to listen to our words and to, read the science that we hand them and to use the brain cells that they have. But I did realize this week, and I tweeted at a couple politicians that critical thinking was not it wasn't a requirement for holding office, because they don't do any critical thinking at all. They don't read anything except for the first paragraph and the last paragraph. When handed something by a staffer, half the time they don't even read it. They let the staffer summarize it, and they don't even go any further than that.
It's a shame, and we're right on every argument. We can counter everything with fact. I mean, it's just a shame. We are an amazing solution to a really, really big problem. And it just blows my mind. It depresses me that we couldn't build a constituency even at the local level. I think some guys have had success at the local level, but for the most part, I think we've lost across the board. We've lost with Democrats, Republicans, and I hate to be negative. But again, like I said, I'm a little older. I am not one of the folks that's, that believes a white knight is coming. I think to me, it's as simple as the political force and the financial force we brought to the table was underwhelming compared to our opposition. And, it's that simple. On the merits of the argument, we wouldn't lose a single debate. I mean, granted, we have a little bit of weakness on access. We have not done a great job as an industry policing ourselves in terms of, youth access. But I mean, I believe we as an industry can walk and chew gum at the same time. We could provide an amazing life-saving technology, but still, protect the youth at the same time. Because like I said, as a parent of 4 children, none of them vape. So it's possible. I'm one of the largest vape manufacturers in my region. And, somehow my teenage kids never picked it up. It's possible. But that is the weakness in the argument. When the kid argument comes up, we're going to lose, pretty much everything.
Well, one of the things that we say all the time is if you, like, for example, I know people, and I probably would be the same way. If I had kids, I probably wouldn't vape in front of them. I would probably, make sure that I, didn't do it. But, I've heard Demetrius say all the time, the number one way to diffuse vaping in his family has been to vape and let his kids see it, because then if dad does it, it's not cool.
Right. No, my kids, I don't hide anything. I mean, I keep the vapor out of, closed space, but yeah, I just explain to my kids what it is.
You're parenting.
Well, your daughter knows. Your daughter knows your struggle. I mean, your daughter understands for sure. But yeah. So, when did you start Beantown?
The liquids.
Yeah.
Yes. So somebody had posted earlier. They were talking about the Kang pineapple. That stuff is still good. That was one of my favorites, the Kang pineapple and peach. But back then, the liquids weren't terribly complex. You didn't have a lot of depth to the flavor. And I had worked as a chef as a younger gentleman, and figured I think I could make something better. And the intent was just to make something for myself that I thought would be good. And so I started putting together, some, 1, 2, 3 flavor blends. And, some of my friends started to prefer those over the other liquids I was importing. And that was around 2010. It's the liquids, my liquids started to get a little bit of national attention when I had put out, I make stuff that nobody wants to vape. Nobody wants to vape a gingerbread eggnog, but I love it. So that was I love that liquid. But they're all unique, we never really chased the trend. I made what I wanted to vape when John and I worked together. Thank you. We just made what we liked, and hoped that everybody else agreed with us, and they did. Oh, you're freaking awesome. Check this out. So on Woodstock, I used to go to the Woodstock Inn ski every year. I've been doing it. I meet a group of guys. It's the only time of year I see them, once a year. We ski up there. It's been 22 years in a row that we've done it. Thank you. And they have a root beer, like a handcrafted root beer. They're basically a brew house, but they do this root beer, and it was just amazing. So I had to make a root beer liquid that tasted just like it. It's a very dark, rooty, earthy root beer, very true to their kind of craft style of root beer. But the guy that owns the Woodstock Inn, I learned that he vaped. So he and it's weird, just through a series of vape relationships, somebody worked there, got me. Long story, but I ended up having dinner with the owner of the brewery and brought him a bottle of Woodstock, and he vaped it at the table and said, I don't know whether to demand a royalty or patch on the back. It tastes just like our root beer. Good guy, really good guy. Great place, Woodstock Inn in Lincoln, New Hampshire. If anybody ever gets up there, it's amazing.
New Hampshire.
But yeah, that's basically how our journey began with liquids. You guys follow the industry pretty closely. We were never a trend chaser, we just kind of did our own thing. I was working in a finance job. I was a director of an IT team in finance for almost entirely through my vapor business. So it wasn't, my primary income. So I didn't really care, what people thought. And it kind of worked out, if you put out a liquid and you don't really care how people respond to it, I don't know, somehow the universe rewards you for not caring.
It does its own thing.
Right. It was
just because you worked another job doesn't mean you didn't care.
No, I mean, I wasn't. My ability to eat didn't depend on whether or not the community embraced a product I put out, I guess is what I meant. So, of course, we care. We want everybody that vapes our liquids to love it and enjoy the experience. We put so much time into these, but like I said, my ability to feed my family wasn't dependent on it. So we were able to just, we didn't have to chase trends, hoping for, to jump on the strawberry wave or the cereal wave. We just kind of did our own thing. And I think some folks, the enthusiasts and the older vapors, like our average age vapor is 38 years old. We definitely attract an older crew.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't believe that you have like a ton of super sweet, fruity liquids.
No.
I tend to not vape super sweet stuff, especially stuff that I know has tons of sweetener in it, because that really does affect the experience, and I don't like it. Any fruity stuff that I make for myself, or any fruity stuff that I vape, better not have I don't put any. I don't even have sweetener, so I don't put sweetener.
You're moderately clever at blending flavors. You don't need to sweeten it up a ton. It's a crutch. A lot of guys lean on it, and all the power to them. There's a lot of vapors that love a nice sweet liquid. For me, it's not really what I want to vape.
Yeah, but so you've been in business since what? well, the e-liquid business since 2010. Yeah. So, that there's been, you mentioned it there. There's been a lot of like trends, the donut trend and the custard trend and the cereal trend, and
even the names of liquids have changed. They used to be clever, funny, provocative names that had nothing to do with the profile. Now everybody's just kind of slapping on the bottle. Here's what it is,
Well, I mean, we did run into some trouble there. There was a group of people that went to DC and had a meeting with Zeller in 2014, somewhere around 2016, maybe. Demetrius was in that group, and I'm sure he could tell me when. Jeremy Dollar was there, and one of the things that Zeller pointed out to them was that he had a liquid called Panty Dropper.
Yeah, alien.
And Panty Dropper, with if nothing else, that Jeremy Dollar's liquids did not have provocative labels. They had, that was, his regular brand. It had just regular old labeling, and it was 2014 that this meeting occurred. Good Life Vapor labels are not like sexy, but the word Panty Dropper on the label was enough to get to get called out.
I get it. But in fairness to the industry, we were a counterculture underground movement. Nobody saw it getting this big, this fast. And some of our our weaknesses showed through as we were just the victim of rapid growth. Unicorn jizz. Yeah, I remember that. Unicorn puke, alien piss. There was some real winners out there.
And Alien, those guys made a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
I saw that shit on shelves in 15 different states.
A lot of the bad players did make a lot of money. They did. They appealed to the younger audience, those young kids that wanted a crazy, colorful label and a very provocative name. They wanted to shock their friends. And, a lot of bad players did really well. And, for some of the legitimate vendors, it was frustrating to watch the rise of, we call it the pump and dump movement, Yep. It was all about marketing, had very little to do with what was in the bottle. And, their customers had no idea that they were superior products available to them. And, why would they want them? They were, they were pretty boring labels, but a lot of them made a shitload of money and didn't have advocacy at the day.
I'm gonna try to quote Demetrius. I believe he said, I don't know if that was that meeting or not, that he could not defend those products. How can I defend this?
You can't.
Yeah. I think that Zeller's quote from there was, I can't tell you what is acceptable and what isn't. He said there's a gray line, and what's good is on one side and what's not is on the other. And he said it's a thick gray line. He's like, there's no, so yeah, I mean, I wasn't there, but
the industry did jump all over it. The industry did really a good job of self-policing, meaning the enthusiast market. They shamed and ridiculed those brands. But I think the shop market, and again, I know I'm going to piss off plenty of people, but in my humble opinion, the shops really did truly have the power to change the trajectory of everything. If the shop supported guys that were out there, fighting for standards and legislation and donating to state groups, if the shop supported those guys, it would empower them to do more. If the shops shut their wallets to shitty brands, brands coming in pill bottles, for God's sake, the shops always had the power to stop these guys dead in their tracks, and they never exercised that power. And again, and that's not all shops. There are some amazingly ethical shops out there, but for the most part, the pump and dump movement was enabled by the shops chasing that younger crowd. It is what it is. And I know somebody will be upset with me for saying it, but that's the way I saw it from my vantage point. If somebody wants to counter me, by all means, let's chat. But that's what I saw.
Yep. I can't find it now, but this week, how Facebook always gives you the, this is what happened 3 years ago. This is what happened 4 years ago. These are your Facebook memories. And the other day, it's gone now, but the other day, my memory was of like a year after or 2 years after the vape-free youth movement that Demetrius tried to start, had gone by the wayside. I made a post, something, wouldn't it be great if like blah 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 blah, and it was all the things from the vape-free youth, and it got comments, it got like a lot of love, and I was like, where were you 2 years ago when we tried to do all this?
Yeah, that's really what I'm saying. It's we have the ability to do it, but shops would chase the guy down the street. I hear it from shops. I talk to shops. I have a unique vantage point of vaping at large, because as a manufacturer, we get to talk to shops all over the country. And, one theme that I had seen consistently and still see it is one shop believed that he had to carry it because his competitor down the street carried it. And that's, that was the circular firing squad logic that allowed these brands to take root and discredit, an entire industry.
I mean, really, a lot of times, even now, you see these politicians. Hey, Fig said hi. You see these politicians holding up shit, holding up ads, or holding up bottles that are 4 or 5 years old, and those businesses are not even in business anymore.
Right. But their intent, in fairness, their intent is not to outline a problem. Their intent is to discredit the industry. So every industry's got their bad players, but why is it that only our bad players are the ones you're holding up? There's no real interest in helping to nurture this young, immature market from politicians. So they'll use everything they can to discredit us and justify, the elimination of the entire segment for favor of tobacco revenue. I mean, it's not complicated. We know what we're up against. This is tobacco revenue. I mean, what are we taxed at? Your standard sales tax in an area. What like in the state of Massachusetts? I don't know the exact numbers, but the tax on tobacco is significant. I think some states would experience significant financial distress if that tobacco revenue were to be eliminated due to vapor.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question. I mean, every state in the union that whether it's the 48 or the 46 country states that are signatories to the master settlement, or the 4 other states that have their separate agreements, each and every one of them are reliant on that money, and so badly that they took out grants, they took out loans, bonds, they took out all this money.
Wall Street moved right in. Wall Street said, "Oh, you're going to be flush with cash. How would you like all that right now?"
Well, and the problem is some of them were or are, some of them have, had to borrow money to pay off the tobacco bonds that they already had. Some of them are really close to being upside down. Some of them are, owe more than what they, So yeah, I mean, it's obviously every one of them.
Diagram of states that overextended that bond and flavor bans. I bet they'd be very closely coupled.
Pretty close. Yeah, I would have. Somebody that's got more time than me can do that Venn diagram. We're gonna have Michelle Minton on next week. Oh, by the way, Michelle Minton's coming on next week. She's really smart, and she can actually probably do that for us.
Yeah.
Who's that? Michelle Minton?
But we've been trying for a while to get her on.
This industry, some smart people.
There are also, counterposed to that, there are some idiots in this fucking industry too. I mean, I'm gonna call it
slinging rock. They went from slinging rock to slinging kits. It's and again, I don't. It's true.
I mean, God, some of the best people in this industry are people that were maybe not the most honest people in the past and had, fuzzy backgrounds and have picked themselves up. And,
absolutely.
I'm not going to be judgmental. I mean, I know a lot of people in this industry that are in recovery and,
for sure.
Once an addict, always an addict, which is an awful fucking word. I mean, we got to realize, and we've said it on this show before, the language that we use to talk about people, whether they're us ex-smokers, or we say, we use the word addict a lot of times in a very negative way. But we are. I mean, if we're going to use the language that everybody uses, I mean, the thing is when politicians refer to us and they use the word vaping,
yeah,
it's the same exact tone that they would use when they're referring to drug users.
Yeah.
The tone and the intonation, the way they speak that word, it is derogatory. It is demeaning. And, we tend to fall down that rabbit hole too much.
But, I'm always trying to look on a positive side. Smoking should be stigmatized. It's a horrible, horrible habit. It's terrible.
But we hate the sin, but we love the sinner. Is that the Christian thing to do? Obviously they don't. I mean, we talk about smoking bans back when I was doing when I was the legislative director of the vaping militia, and the vast majority of bills that are ordinances and things, because when we did the locals, it was all like ordinances and things like that. The vast majority of them were public use bans. The wave had not hit of the flavor ban yet. I think one of the last ones I did was one of the very first flavor ban attempts. But just the idea that you have this thing that you've chosen to do, and this is a very fancy version of it, but we do this instead of smoking. So what do they fucking do? You go over there where all the other assholes are. You go over there where all the other smokers are. You don't come over here and be part of our society. You have to go over there.
Hate is socially acceptable for smokers, right?
Yeah.
So, you're not one of us. You're one of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And, it's always about the hate of the thing that is different than you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it sucks. And, we've done everything that we could over the last 10 years to try to correct that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, cigarette companies have been around for 100 years. Politicians have been taking money from them for 100 years. We're the scrappy new kids that want to change the world. But we got to realize the system was not designed to allow us to participate.
No,
I mean, we've done everything possible. I can't, I don't always agree with VTA. I don't always agree with Safada. I don't always agree with CASA, but I can't shit on anything that they've done. They've tried.
You know what our strategy was with advocacy groups? Anybody willing to put in that thankless work to advocate on behalf of this industry, we've sent them all checks. Everybody gets the check. If you're willing to do that work, God love you. I can grant that there's nuance between positions from group to group. And yeah, there was some, nonsense, but they were all out there with the same mission to try and preserve a technology that we all personally, truly passionately believed in. I would support anybody willing to do that work. And there are some awesome advocates that have just come out of this movement that have just been so impressive. Like, especially Amanda Wheeler lately has been amazing.
We've had her on the show. She's an outspoken young lady too.
Awesome. Everybody's awesome. And I I'll forget 50 other names of amazing people. She just happened to catch my attention last week. Did you see the interview she had done with Brent?
Yeah.
Fantastic. She was great. Like a solid voice. And there's so many of them. Well, like I said, I remember those.
Hashtag Netto.
Anybody that was willing to do the work, fight, travel for a thankless job, and be accused of But did you see the industry attacking all the advocacy groups? You didn't. You didn't do this.
If you're not part of our club, you're against us, and
right.
that is something that's happened. I always see people talking about there is no unity. Well, half the bullshit was one or two bad actors that were the most vocal. one guy from the board of one group says something negative, and then that means that everybody on the board of that group is negative. As far as I can see, and I've been part of an organization, I was part of an organization that worked with every other fucking organization. I've had conversations on both sides. I'm sure Demetrius has had conversations, and everybody is never going to be on the same page. And maybe there's one or two bad people in X club or Y club, but that doesn't mean everything that group does sucks,
95% of what they had done was amazing and a great service to the industry. I hated when they were being attacked for nonsense. Like, how much time went into that?
It takes one dickwad, and I'll use an example. One dickwad saying something about Demetrius, for example, that Demetrius is taking flights on the private Big Tobacco plane, and he's little shit like that stirs up so much drama. One dickhead that had no fucking no reason to even speak, that took months to negate that asshole's comments, and that asshole's name is never to be spoken on this fucking show. So
are we drinking? Are we drinking tonight? Is that the deal?
Every time I say the word fuck, technically we're supposed to be drinking.
Do you mind if I run and grab one? I would love a bourbon right now.
Go.
Very special bourbon. So then I'll be right back.
If you bring out a fancy bourbon, I might bring out a fancy bourbon.
I have a bourbon no one else on the planet has except one other person.
Oh shit!
Hookers and blow, baby. That's what Demi says. In my opinion, if you don't like the way something's being done, fuck you. Do it better.
Do it that's the thing.
Fuck
is all these dickheads that always fucking come out and say stupid shit are the whiny ass bitches that have never done a fucking thing. It's like, when your people are saying, well, where did all the money go that we went to this or we gave to that? Well, you gave the money to them. That means that you must have fucking, checked and seen what they were going to do with it. Half the time it's people that never fucking joined, that never fucking donated, that never fucking did a damn thing other than whine about it.
When I did that survey, I had more comments about how it should not have been done than I ever thought I could have. And I didn't know anybody. So it was like
how dare you do something, Kevin? How dare you?
I didn't realize there was a hierarchy or order. And it just got progressively worse as it went on.
How dare you do something that nobody else has ever done before?
Had I known what I was going to get into eventually, I'd have kept a few screenshots because it was sad. I couldn't understand why they wanted to control what I'd already done or the outcome for that matter. This isn't good for the industry. Well, do something that is.
Right. A lot of armchair quarterbacks.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of them. And not enough, pats on the back for the guys that were out there willing to do it.
Yeah.
Thankless.
I've spoken to a couple people this week that are, or basically they put a gag on themselves because they didn't want, somebody said something about them and made some sort of false accusation. And now people are like, every time they say something now, people are like jumping on them. And I'm like, this is the last fucking time. This is the last fucking time that we should be doing anything, that we should be acting against each other in any fucking way. I mean, you got this PMTA thing that's coming. The deadline is less than 20 days, or I didn't look at the number today, but I think it's 20 days.
A little less.
19 days, whatever. You got this fucking thing coming that could very well wipe out this industry in less than 90 days.
What do you think is going to happen? On the 9th, what do you think is going to happen? What sequence of events will kick off?
I don't think anything's happening on the 9th. I think the people that are going to submit their PMTAs, whether they're obviously we've seen AES, we've seen RJ Reynolds, we've seen Fontum, we've seen the big guys. We saw Avail drop one. We saw another company that I'd never heard of submit one. That apparently, I'm assuming it must be like gas station, like e-liquid or something. I'd never heard of them before. I could be wrong. but there was a brand that I'd never heard of before that
Victory?
had been accepted.
Oh,
No, it wasn't.
It happens, yeah.
It was accepted. All the ones that I named have been accepted. I know of a couple other companies that are working with the same group that Avail used. It's a division of Avail. It's Blackbriar, that are using the Blackbriar to help with the process of it. I'm assuming that if Avail's PMTA got accepted, that they probably have a good handle on how to get one accepted. So I know a couple companies that are working with them, and it's not my business to announce who the companies are working for, or working with. But I don't think anything's going to happen that day. I do think that people will quickly. I believe, and from what I've talked to a few people that are in the know or that have spoken to people, that the initial PMTA processing will be done software management wise, and they've got, they're going to be able to quickly go through the electronic submissions and weed out the incomplete ones, the ones that don't have what they consider to be the bare minimum. Yeah. And I believe
high 90 percentages. Yeah.
I believe that people will be rapidly getting letters back saying that your PMTA is not acceptable.
Is this going to be another case where doing the right thing harms business?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, obviously, everybody's already registered their products. They know where you are. They know where your manufacturing facility is. I mean, if they wanted to be hard ass, they could print that out and send, printouts to all of the local LEOs and say, okay, we're giving you X number of dollars to go and act on these regulations, or they're going to go through the local health departments or whatever.
Manufacturer still has a right to manufacture and distribute to overseas customers. So
right. And we talked about that on the show last week. A lot of American companies, the medium-sized to big American companies that have already moved into the EU, will still be able to open their doors and still be able to manufacture. It's the shops.
Yeah, the shops are going to. Most shops don't even know what PMTA is. They have no.
Well, all they do is they order product and put it on a shelf and sell it.
No. Don't trigger me.
Right back shop's call. Hey, what is this PMTA?
So I don't think that it's. I mean, I think theoretically it could happen really quickly, depending on how big of a jerk they wanted to be. Yeah. And obviously, when they reached out to the DOJ to go to the Judge Grimm, and say, "Hey, Judge, can we have permission to be lenient against cigars so that we can put all of our attention onto the vaping industry?" I mean, their fucking letter essentially says that.
Yeah.
It's like we're pretty sure that kids are not using premium cigars. So can we put all of our attention onto flavored vape, because we know kids are getting that. So, regardless of that, I mean, obviously a different judge, rendered his decision this week, essentially giving the FDA the big fuck you and saying you can't enforce the FDA on premium cigars because you've done a shitty job of communicating with the cigar industry, and you've ham-handedly attempted to regulate these, and you are not allowed to in any way, shape, or form enforce the PMTA requirements on premium cigars until you go through the process and recreate a process that is fair for them.
Yeah.
That is essentially what he decided. And I'm like, every one of these points in this decision, every one of these things were points that the lawsuit that the Right to Be Smoke Free Coalition did. I'm like, every one of these points are points that we've argued in front of Judge Grimm.
Yeah.
And this other judge agreed, and Judge Grimm did not. Cigars, vape. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I don't really believe that it's going to be that fast, but I don't think it's going to be 6 months from now. I don't believe it's going to be a year from now. I think it's going to be faster than that. and people will be getting letters of rejection. And then, since it's already past the PMTA deadline, people that have gotten their PMTAs rejected, I don't know if they have to start all over, which means they have to pull their shit from the market until they submit a PMTA and get marketing orders.
I don't quote me on it, but I think if you are after the 9th, you're no longer permitted to manufacture between the time of the 9th and to the time you submit. Market and manufacture and sell. Honestly, I don't know if you can sell product that you've already manufactured or if manufacturing must cease at that time. I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen.
Well, I mean, I know that you can't market your product. For example, I'm an unregistered company. Like, I just created this new flavor that I want to sell. I can't put this on the market until I've submitted my PMTA and it has been approved and I get marketing orders.
Yeah.
I believe if your PMTA is rejected and you have to start over and submit a new one, it's the same thing. You can't sell this until you get marketing orders,
Right.
is what I believe. Again, I am not an attorney. I am in no way, shape, or form a regulatory expert, but I've spoken to people who are attorneys and people that have had conversations with Azar and Zeller. So
what about the stuff that's already on the market, on the shelf? Are those allowed to be sold out after the 9th?
I don't believe so. If your PMTA has not been submitted,
they can pull
immediately. You have to be, supposedly. I mean, obviously, I don't think that they're going to send out an army of FDA guys that day to start pulling shit from the market. I don't believe that. But
army.
Oh God!
If you take a segment, if you basically eradicate, and that's what's effectively going to happen, 99% of the market will be eradicated. The demand is not eradicated. The demand is as strong as ever. And now there's a supply issue, which means, the black marketeers, the gray marketeers will seize on, the demand without the supply, and the problem will get worse.
There's going to be guys selling liquid out of, the back of a van. There's going to be guys that know you're going to be, I know a guy who knows a guy who can get you a pineapple orange or whatever. That's actually a good sounding comment. Anyway,
it's happening in the flavor ban states right now. The black market is blossoming in the.
But that's still legal product that they're bringing from another state to. Or is it junk liquid that somebody's making in their basement?
Well, I heard this happened to somebody I know yesterday. This happened yesterday. She was doing a delivery service for vapor products in the state of Massachusetts. A sting was set up, a buy was conducted, and then a relationship between she, the runner, and the buyer was established. The buyer upped their order to $2,000, which makes it, a much greater offense. So they kind of brought her along, and they arrested her on the spot when she showed up with $2,000 worth of Juul pods. This is somebody I know this happened to.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So I know people that were smart and built databases of their clients, and might have purchased a couple vans, and maybe possibly
for sure
have contacted the people on their database and said, look, if you need something, we are setting up routes.
Yep.
And if you're on the list, you can buy, but if you're not on the list, you're not going to be able to buy.
Right. Demetrius just makes an important distinction. Accepted is not necessarily authorized.
Obviously accepted means that they've scanned they've looked at your initial PMTA. They've seen that it has the minimum of stuff. Mm-hmm. They haven't actually looked at the actual stuff, but they see that you've submitted something for each category. Yeah. And then for 1 year after you've been accepted, you can be on the market until your PMTA is authorized.
And Demetrius makes another great point. Without the clinicals or the HPHC, nobody's going to get a damn thing.
But HPHCs are achievable. It's the in vitro, in vivo, the clinical trials. All of that is not.
But there's a huge movement out there. Sharon, the woman is an absolute hero. She created a pretty cool little process to help folks to kind of automatically generate all of the documents they require. But most of the folks following that, most of them, I think probably all of them, plan on submitting without clinicals and without.
Right, and I mean, obviously, there are things that are on the PMTA that are on that guidance document that are not statutorily required, but FDA added them anyway. And the most stringent, the most difficult things to do are those things that are not statutorily required, but FDA put them in anyway. So yeah, I mean, I don't believe that. I mean, obviously, if it doesn't have everything that's in the guidance document that they say is required for it to be considered a PMTA. I mean, if you read the language of some of the press releases that FDA has issued when they've accepted PMTAs, they put that definition in there that this is a real PMTA or this is a serious PMTA, or, you know, if it doesn't have that, they don't consider your application complete. And if your application is not complete, I mean, I've worked in government, I've worked for bureaucracy. If you don't have all the T's T's crossed and the dots dotted, it doesn't count.
Bruni asks about the 2007 date. I don't believe that there were any products.
Well, there's actually a couple heat not burn products, and there was actually, I believe, one predicate product that was identified, but I don't think that nobody is making that product anymore, and it's not substantially similar to anything that's on the market that you could actually use it as a predicate product. I believe. Dan
Donahue's saying that, hold on, where was his comment? Yeah, unenforceable. I mean, I wouldn't say unenforceable, but I think his second part of your statement is 100% accurate. I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in a flavor ban state. I know this to be a fact, that guys will be selling vapor products from retail highway shops all over the place. Yeah, they're pretty crafty. What's happening in Mass is a beautiful case study in civil disobedience. I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, like I said, the first crackdown I heard of was, just recently, but it's a vibrant black market.
Well, I mean, and obviously the Sting Empire, not the Sting, but they seized several $1 million worth of bars. What was the
puff bar thing?
Puff bars. They seized like several $1 million worth of puff bars in the port of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
Bars are this week. The FDA has strongly signaled that they plan to start enforcement there with, closed pod systems, unauthorized bars, post 8A, bar products.
Well, they need to. I mean, obviously, I mean, the courts, the what's that company in upstate New York that had the Juul pods, the knockoff Juul pods that had 70 milligram nicotine salts in them. And
what were they called?
I don't know. They just got hit with a multi-million-dollar like fine. Like, that company is done.
I think they'll have a few vapor products that they actually found contaminants within the product.
Well, that company specifically was also selling nicotine alternative, and I'm not talking about like Delta 8 or CBDs. They were doing some sort of herbal bullshit with like betel nut or something in their pot. Yeah, it was some sort of weird nut that they were selling.
The hallucinogen.
Oh, well. But yeah, I mean, they were selling that. That company was selling some fucking. I mean, nicotine salts don't do it for me anyway, and I don't really understand why people would go all the way from 3 milligram up to like 60 milligram anyway. But there people did it, and that's their choice. I don't care for them at all. Nicotine salts just don't do it for me.
So
but
with the highway vendor, Steve, is this going to go back to what it was when you two started 2010? It's going to be a network of people without the internet, without.
Well, when it wasn't that, I mean, obviously we met, I was online, and, we had a very vibrant online community of people that were like, oh, well, I make this and I can send you some of that. And, it was mostly, people like Steven before he was commercial that probably, were selling liquid to his friends.
It was so much fun. And we honestly thought we were doing, great work, righteous work. We were reading stories every day. That was when, people making the switch was just, it was through the roof. And it was such a great feeling to hear somebody say, hey, what you made got me to stop smoking after a 30-year habit. That was amazing. Like, we really thought, like, the government's going to love us. Look what we did. It's a problem.
Yeah, the first O-Face I ever got was from Ian. Ian had gotten a big giant bottle. Like, he would get big, huge bulk bottles of Jimmy the Juice Man and Steven's stuff and put it in smaller bottles and send it out to people.
Yeah,
and that
great supporter. The Vape Militia was just a great group. Is that thing still going?
No, we shuttered it. We felt like there was so much overlap. There was no reason for us to keep going. We were, and it did go down to, it just turned out to, let's go to events to say the same thing that we said at the last event, that we said at the event before that we said at the event in the same place that we said last year. And it was just like, we're saying nothing's changed. Let's stop diluting advocacy, and there's no reason for there to be another group doing the same thing that other groups are doing. Obviously, we were the loudest and we could say stuff that Kasa couldn't say, but it got to the point where it was like, it just seemed like we were spending money to go to events to talk to 20 people.
Right. If Demetrius is still listening, I do have a question for him. He may know the answer to. So when you are testing an open vapor product, is it required that you would test that product on all combinations of tank mod, addy, battery, coil that it could possibly be used in which case would be virtually an impossible, an infinite combination of devices, tanks, coils?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where do you draw the line? What is the requirement?
See, Dan actually did the research on betel nut for me. So yeah, betel nut is a known carcinogen. It's bad news, and Yolanda says that it's bad news for your memory too.
Yeah, but it has a psychoactive effect. Spokesman, I think it's big in Cambodia or.
I wish I could remember the name of that fucking company. It's gonna drive me crazy.
It makes your mouth red. It's a drug. I mean, it's a drug.
Wow.
Yeah, Bill's over here sending me pictures.
I would love to know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, they went out. I mean, obviously they were hammered. Juul, first took a chunk out of them for counterfeiting, for their pods, and then I think it was New Mexico sued them for being bad vapor company, and they got like a $25 million settlement or something, or fine. So they're gone either way. It's a New York company. I know it's like upstate New York somewhere. Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to snatch a knot in that boy because he should be sending me bottles of bourbon.
Oh my God. It's amazing. It's unreal. It's so he's incredible.
I'm gonna beat his ass.
So smoky.
He was one of the very first guests we had on the video show.
Oh, he's one of my vape heroes. And he and Shane Johnson. Most people don't even know who Shane Johnson is.
I know who Shane Johnson is.
You got to be super initiated to know.
Ow!
But it's incredible. His contributions are incredible.
So you've asked questions about the PMTA, but what are you doing about the PMTA? I mean, we had Jay Love on here last week, and he basically said that Five Ponds is not even going to do it.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to do what everybody else is going to do. You're going to take your best crack at it. You'll meet as many requirements as you can. You submit it. There will obviously be gaps. Wait to see what the FDA is going to say about it. I think it's really just to try and figure out what their appetite is for helping you along or shuttling you along. I think we're going to find out where their true intent is. yeah, I mean, we would love to stay in the market, but we also have very realistic expectations of, being asked, to leave the market. And some folks ask me, does this mean it's the end of vaping? Like, no, just the changing of hands. That's really all that's happening.
Yep.
Well, and there are, like I said, there are a few open vapor companies that have submitted and have been accepted.
But again, that's why my question to Demetrius is so important, because I don't know how you could pass aerosol testing with an infinite combination of products that you can run it in. And then all of those hardware products would also have to be PMTA'd to be allowed on the market to put your liquid in. So it's...
Yep.
Well, I mean, I know that on a live stream, he said that Innokin was working on a PMTA for their...
I believe it.
So I know that there are some of the Chinese companies are attempting to do that.
Yeah.
But again, they've never done it. I always hear, nobody. Well, no, I shouldn't say nobody. There are a couple. I mean, obviously, the tobacco companies have put a PMTA through for their combustible products, so they have some experience.
Was the Q officially accepted?
The IQOS?
The IQOS officially accepted and authorized?
Yes, they've even gotten they've got they got a version of the modified risk application through as well. They are allowed to make exposure claims. So their modified risk application basically says they can't say that it's better for you. They can't say that it's safer than smoking, but what they can say is that you are exposed. Yeah, you are exposed to fewer chemicals than smoking.
Katie's saying they're already appearing in stores in the U.S. already.
Yeah, they actually have a flagship store in like Atlanta, I believe.
What a shit device! The flavors hard. They're terrible.
I want to try one just so that I can shit on it or not. I mean, so Kevin and I are not your average vapors. Both of us enjoy tobacco flavors.
I want to try it too, just to see.
I want to try it just because I loved smoking. I'm just gonna say, I've said it on the show. I love smoking. I smoked cigars. I smoked pipes. I smoked regular cigarettes. I like those things, and I'm gonna try IQS, but the IQOS that's here now, the one that got approved in the United States, is the first generation IQOS, which apparently is the shittiest version because they've done several different generations in other countries that are better. Obviously, JD Hall mentions in the chat room, Conley was in Japan, which is the biggest market, I believe, or one of the biggest markets for the IQOSs and the heat not burn systems. And they have different versions of different flavors, different things over there that obviously they're not approved for over here. And the versions that they have are newer versions than what we are allowed to use here. So, the IQOS, I mean, they spent, and obviously I've spoken to at least two of the people that have gotten their PMTAs accepted.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that the Juul PMTA was $20 million.
That's insane.
The AES PMTA was $15 million. The Avail PMTA is $10 million. And Charlie's Chalk Dust, which is another one of those companies that submitted or is in the middle of submitting, said that they've spent $4.4 million on theirs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
some small business relief.
He did. Okay. We played the audio. I've taken it as my personal mission in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, to hammer that message on Twitter that Azar promised stuff and has not done.
I think what he say is they enhance the website to make it easier to upload documents.
Oh no. They opened a hotline for small business that you can call and ask questions and not get answers.
Right.
But they call it the small business. They call it the small business helpline. So yeah, I mean, obviously,
isn't IQOS liquid filled mesh system as well?
They have the IQOS like version 3.
No shit.
Is a heat not burn with liquid impregnating, I guess, the heat stick. So it's still, it's still a heat not burn product. It's not technically a vaping product, but yeah.
But the tobacco formulations still contain carcinogens?
Well, tobacco itself is not a carcinogen until you light it on fire.
But there are 88 additives.
Oh yeah, no, and there's more than 88 additives.
I think it's 88 known carcinogens out of the 5,000 chemicals, 88 of which are identified as carcinogenic.
Yeah, I do know that there's a lot of the compounds that well, not all of a good number of the compounds that you inhale when you smoke are created by the combustion.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an evil product.
I mean, and obviously they put ammonia in it to make the nicotine absorb faster. They put all this other stuff in it.
What, they enhance it? What?
Enhance.
Think about it.
Enhance.
It's some guy's job to make a chemical cocktail with that tobacco mixture to keep you hooked longer. It's somebody's job to do that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and they had scientists on the payroll whose whole job was, they go to them and they say, okay, this is our cigarette. We want you to make it so that people will want it more.
Right.
So people will not be able to stop themselves. We want this to be like Pringles. You can't have one.
It's so powerful.
Or Doritos.
I consider myself a fairly strong-minded fellow, and cigarettes grabbed me. And
me too.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it was my only vice. I was never a drug user. Never had any vices, never had any addictions. But as soon as cigarette, it was 14, 15 years old. You wanted a Levi's denim jacket with a pack of Red Dogs, and I mean that was the uniform.
Yep.
That's how it started. And then you're driving, you're leaving your house at 3 a.m. to get another pack.
Of course.
Horrible.
And then your kids are writing books.
Right? I know.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I'm glad you shared.
I'll share it with you. I'll post up pics of the book that she had written.
Yeah.
I would keep that. That would be like, that's one of like those items that you, as a parent, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things from your kid's childhood that you fall by the wayside, but that particular item, you can't ever let go of that ever.
I would have smoked till I died. I was a hopeless.
Yeah.
They were horrible. And you could feel it. I mean, I don't feel that way with vapor. I'm a very healthy guy now. I definitely credit my daughter for challenging me to try.
Well, all those hours going out there fishing and catching giant fish.
It was beautiful.
I was looking for a picture because I make a title piece for every episode, and I bitch about it all the time because I bitched about it last week with Jay Love. Is there's no fucking pictures of you that are usable because they're all either you holding a damn fish. So I had to use your profile pic where you're holding the bottle of water and you're going like this,
There's a movement of women out there trying to get guys to stop posting fish pics. Like, Jesus, of all the things to worry about, anti-fish pics. The world's gone mad.
The world has gone mad.
Uh-huh.
It is kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, but.
So who's in chat? Let's hear from some folks in chat. What do they got to say?
Keep them busy.
Jay,
I'm downloading something right now.
Okay.
Jay just joined us. Jay Hardesty.
Oh, nice. Hey, what's up, Jay? Jay's a great guy. We've been working with them forever.
Dan's comment: used heat sticks are going to where'd it go? Shit. Used heat sticks are going to make hilarious TikTok videos with people trying to relight them. And I believe that because the under 25 crowd, sorry kids, is probably going to do that. So you hated the heat,
like could be like the Tide Pod challenge.
There you go. Chris Carlton's in the room. Tom's in the room. Nicole loves fishing. There you go, Steve.
Yes.
See, Yolanda does too.
That's awesome.
I know
She lives on an island.
I've caught hundreds of thousands of fish, and every single time I catch one, I feel like I'm 7 years old again. I'm so grateful for that. You know, that sounds so stupid to most people.
Were you probably one of those kids that didn't want to kill the worm, put the worm on the hook?
Oh no, anything to catch a fish. I would sacrifice that worm. He's gonna drown. I'm addicted to catching fish. But you know, like something that I've done hundreds of thousands of times still gets me pumped up every time I catch one.
Hey, Andrew K is in the room. He's an old school fella.
All right.
There's a few more faces.
Actually with a lot of interesting perspectives on the industry. I like seeing Paul's comments all over the place.
Oh.
Hey Jay, do you remember the time you got kicked out of Giant and your wife had to PM me to get you back in? It's so funny. I got history with just about everybody I see out here.
Oh dear Lord, I don't even want to know the background on the piston on the golden shower thing is not good.
Hey, I was young. I needed the money
to buy cigarettes, right?
Either pack of Red Dogs and my Levi's denim jacket.
Okay, so one of the things, to completely 180 out of the golden shower and the pissing on people. One of the cool things that happened this week was, a fairly well known fella in political circles. He tried to run for president twice. Publishes a fairly popular and fairly well known publication. Put out a video this week about vaping bans. It's a 3-minute video, and this will let me go and refresh my drink. So I'm going to play this video of Steve Forbes from Forbes magazine.
Oh, no way.
Did a pretty damn good job of explaining why vaping should not be banned. So you guys, let me go get my drink and let me put this on, and I'll be right back.
Awesome.
Steve has apparently not seen it, so this might be something he enjoys.
Good.
All right, here we go.
Should electronic cigarettes be banned? No. In fact, vaping should be encouraged for cigarette smokers. Hello, I'm Steve Forbes, and this is What's Ahead, where you get the insights you need to better navigate these turbulent times. Before the COVID-19 crisis dominated our lives, U.S. healthcare authorities and others were waging a relentless publicity war against electronic cigarettes or vaping. While not in the headlines for now, the anti-vaping forces are still at it. They have already succeeded in persuading countless numbers of people that e-cigarettes are as dangerous or more dangerous than traditional tobacco products. Now let's be clear. We shouldn't be ingesting smoke from tobacco, marijuana, or vaping devices into our lungs. And of course, any kind of smoking could well make the getting of COVID-19 even more disastrous for people, including young people. Shockingly, the campaign against vaping has been based on a mountain of misinformation and outright lies. In fact, by persuading smokers not to switch to e-cigarettes, these authorities are consigning hundreds of thousands of people to unnecessarily premature deaths. That is, more Americans will die as a result of this misbegotten crusade than from the COVID-19 disease itself. Let's look at the facts. E-cigarettes do not contain tobacco. They let users inhale nicotine, but not the deadly substances of tobacco. Vaping is the safest, most effective alternative to smoking tobacco. That's why British healthcare officials have taken the opposite tact. They encourage smokers to switch to vaping. Anti-vaping forces in America point to the surge in recent years of vaping among young people, especially teenagers, implying this is a gateway to using cigarettes. The truth is the opposite. The rate of cigarette smoking among young people in the past decade has plunged from almost 16% to under 6%. Last year, we were inundated with stories of people getting lung diseases from vaping, numbering 450 cases. 5 died. Turns out most of these people had used illicit vapors, not the kind e-cigarette manufacturers were selling, to ingest a form of marijuana that contained an acetate used in topical skin lotions. Despite the truth about e-cigarettes, anti-vaping forces pressured the FDA to ban flavored vaping liquids. This is but a stepping stone to an outright prohibition of vaping. It should be of no surprise that tobacco companies and makers of nicotine patches, chewing gums, and other stop-smoking aids would take a dim view of e-cigarettes. But e-cigarettes are significantly less harmful than traditional smokes. Let's stop these deadly anti-vaping campaigns and inhale the healthy example of Britain. I'm Steve Forbes. Thank you for listening. Do send in your comments and suggestions, and I look forward to being with you soon again.
Patrick back? Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, Dan Donahue asked for the link, so the link is going into the chat. So it takes a minute for sometimes for me my comment, but yeah, everybody should. So when they when this initially was released, it was only released on Twitter. It was not released onto the Forbes YouTube right away, and when they tweeted that video out, like it got shared, like all the vapor dudes, all the vapor Twitter guys, the bots or whatever you want to call it, we're putting it everywhere. And we're thanking him and giving him amazing comments on Twitter. And obviously, if you're on Twitter, you should go to my timeline and you can find the link to his tweet on my Twitter, and then obviously respond to his Twitter and give him big thanks for this, because everything that he represented it almost perfectly. I mean, there obviously there was a few nomenclature issues that, you know, he didn't have the terminology right or whatever, but he pointed out everything that we needed him to point out. It's a spot on video, and this guy's he's not a small fish. I mean, obviously this guy ran for president twice. Yeah. You know, and somebody said, Bruni said, you know, good on Forbes for speaking up. Wouldn't it be a win to have him at the UVA rally? You know, that's something we should talk about, is that, you know, they're doing this rally in DC, September 6th, 5th, September 5th at the Ellipse, the same place they had their last rally. Obviously, right now during the COVID thing, it might be difficult for a lot of people, but if you can get there, you should go. I mean, obviously, the more people that show up, the better.
And Tristan actually did invite him on Twitter, so that doesn't mean he's coming. But
no, but yeah, I mean, obviously, we need to be as cool as we can. Did that link go into Facebook? Yeah. So that, you know, obviously, that's the link to the YouTube video, because like the later in that day or the next day, they actually posted it officially on the Forbes YouTube channel. So you've got multiple places where you can make comments and thank the guy for, you know, taking the time to do this video and to stand up for what's right. So yeah, it's good that he posted it in both places.
I'm very surprised, and I wonder what caused it. What was the cause for that?
Well, he's not like I said, he's not a dummy. I voted for him both times that he ran before, and, you know, obviously he didn't make it to be the ultimate nominee, but he's not a dummy, and he was a proponent for the flat tax, and a lot of people wouldn't vote for him because he was pushing the flat tax, which a lot of economists and people are against, and they don't think it'll work, and blah blah blah. But, you know, he had an inventive solution to a problem that's going to be around for ever. Yeah. Like, taxes are never going to be perfect, and it's never going to work out the way it's supposed to. And people just need to realize that certain services that we request cost money, and we have to pay the government to get those services. I mean, I like to have good roads. I like to have a police. You know, I'm not anti-cop. So, you know, I think that cops need to be funded. I think that teachers need to make money, and all that has to do with where you know, the taxes that you pay. So, you know, people bitch and moan that this and that is a socialist thing, and as a you know, the name of the show is Son of Liberty Radio, and that means that I want to have the shit that I want to have, and I want to have it right now. That means that, yeah, I mean, we have to have cops. We have to have things, and some of those things might sound like socialist ideas when you throw them out there separately.
Yep.
But public school, that's a socialist idea. Medicare, socialist idea. Social Security, socialist idea. So that's right there, social. So yeah, obviously there's certain things we're not. I'm totally not against those services that everybody needs. And
well, ironically, if we had socialized medicine, there would not be a war on vaping. It would be a cost-cutting.
Well, there are countries that are socialized healthcare that are still anti-vaping.
Yeah, I believe they'll come around though. The ones that have embraced, it saves a ton of money. I mean, it's not just for illness, treating someone as they're dying. It's treating them all the way up until they reach that point.
We can use snooze as an example.
Yep.
Snooze is only legal in Europe and Sweden.
Right.
They have literally almost 100, probably close to 100 years of actual science proving that product reduces cancer, it reduces smoking. Sweden has the lowest cancer rates in the Europe, and obviously
in the world.
It's pretty close. But yeah, they're the only country in Europe that you can actually get snooze.
No kidding.
So yeah, just I don't particularly think that argument is valid based on the examples that we already have. I think that it might be easier. I mean, Yolanda, they just started letting people vape in New Zealand, and they've got socialized healthcare. Australia seems to be like fucking trying to figure out ways to fuck over vapors. They've been doing it for a decade. And I think they have socialized healthcare too. Japan has socialized healthcare. They have a failing social health system though. And that's not based on the fact that it's socialized healthcare. It's the fact that their demographic, their population is aging rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not enough young people in the country. I mean, their population, their average age is in the 50s right now. And in the next decade, yeah, they're going to be, if not already, the oldest country in the world when it comes to the age of the population, because no, and socialism is not the same as socialist. Socialized is not the same as socialist, is what Greg says, which is actually true. It's not, but just because it's socialized doesn't mean that it has to be a good socialized system. And there are examples of bad socialized healthcare systems in the world. You can't hold them all up and say they're all great. And that, people often say that America is the only developed country that doesn't have socialized healthcare, which is true. But there are countries that have socialized healthcare that are bottoming out, that are close to failing. So yeah, Japan's one of those examples of socialized healthcare that worked when people were working and people were young, that could help prop up. But there's been about 20 years of population, negative population growth in Japan. There's not been as many children born, and slowly but surely that means that there's fewer workers. I'm kind of hoping one day that they put out a program. They're saying, hey, if you want to come to Japan, we'll pay you to move over here and give you a job, because I love Japan. I love Japan. You would talk about fish.
Yeah.
Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Good fish in Japan.
Yep. Japan is a huge largemouth bass fishing. They love largemouth bass in Japan. Matter of fact, largemouth bass aren't even indigenous to Japan. They brought them in, stocked lakes, and cultivated the species.
Yeah. But I mean, you can get the best steak in the world in Japan, one of the best whiskeys in the world, Japanese, good sushi, good ramen, very pleasant people.
Yeah.
By and large.
For some of this bourbon, by the way, speaking of great liquors.
Drink.
Oh, I did go refresh my drink.
What do you
That's
drink?
A lot.
What are you drinking?
Whistle Pig.
Oh yeah. What is it? Is it what is
bourbon?
It? Oh,
It's
is
rye.
It?
This is the fancy.
Chugged?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm Irish.
Show some respect for that bourbon.
Yeah, Paul says Suntory is a good whiskey.
There you go.
Oh, very nice. That's
there
a Japanese
you go.
whiskey.
That is a Japanese whiskey. Yes. This is Whistle Pig rye. This is an unopened bottle.
What state is that out of?
I believe Indiana. Vermont.
Vermont, really?
God damn it. It's fucking Vermont. Damn Yankee whiskey.
Nothing wrong with Yankees. I love Massachusetts. Absolutely love it.
No.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I have a pleasantly stocked bar behind me, so there's plenty of booze back there. Yeah, so it's really we're in a weird situation. The rally is happening 4 days prior to the deadline date, and I believe the rally can be like the first shot in our next phase of advocacy and outreach. I don't believe that President Trump is going to open his window and see all those people out there and immediately sign an executive order. But I think it will be the exclamation point of the current phase of us, because everything changes after that deadline date. Our tactics have to change. Yep. We've been reaching out to Republicans pretty much the whole time, because we felt like our argument, or one of our arguments, was that this is a freedom thing, and the Democrats want to steal our freedom, and we never really. I think a lot of times people were afraid. Kevin and I have been very loud about the consumer choice and about the harm reduction argument over the years, because we're consumers and we can make those statements, we can say those things. But the problem is, we have to engage with the Democrats. We have to push a different version of the message. I mean, of course, we can still continue to dialogue with the Republicans about the freedom and, the small business aspect and all this stuff. But we really, if you think about it, at the core, harm reduction is a Democrat message. Mm-hmm. Condoms, needle exchanges.
This is why I'm so disappointed with Democrats. Vaping is a classic progressive issue.
Right.
I just don't understand how we can't find an ally here.
Well, because we haven't, we really, other than a very small handful of people reaching out to their Democrat representation, we've done a piss poor job. Like I will say it. Part of the problem, we've done a piss poor job when it comes to reaching out to the Democrats. When it comes to pushing the harm reduction message, when it comes to the fact that we can compare this technology with every other harm reduction technology that they support, and we hit almost every point.
Right.
And we just never done that.
Well, we have. I can tell you what happened. The Massachusetts, I think there's no question it's a fairly liberal state. So if you can find an ally for vaping, you'd think you'd find it in Massachusetts. That was not the case. We've met a lot of sympathetic ears from aides, staff, but tobacco tax in Mass is massive.
And obviously that outreach includes the fact that we have to write checks. Politicians look at people as either votes or money.
Yeah, that's true.
And, votes are good. Votes are the same as money because that gets them, that paycheck at the end of the day when they get elected. But,
you know what Ron Johnson said to me? He pat me on the back. I did a big impassioned speech, and he pat me on the back and he said, "Son, everybody knows vaping's better than cigarettes. You have a revenue problem. If you leave me a check for $30,000, I can write a letter on your behalf," which we declined. But
yeah,
but at least he was honest.
Every politician, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's all. I mean, obviously, they're always looking out for themselves.
Yeah,
because they got to wet their beak, and B, what can I do? What does it do for my constituency? What does it do so that people that vote for me think that I did something good, so that they'll vote for me again?
Yeah.
So obviously, everybody wonders how Ted Cruz keeps getting elected in Texas, because Ted Cruz does tons of shit that people from Texas benefit from, that his constituents benefit from. He's a crazy son of a bitch. When you see him talking, you can see the crazy right behind his eyes. But then he negotiates deals with auto manufacturers to open plants here. Yep. He arranges deals for computer companies to move here and to build plants. You think that Tesla is coming here just because, it's Texas? No, they're coming here because they're getting tax breaks to come here. Mm-hmm. But those tax breaks that bring those businesses in, bring jobs in for Texans. So then people are happy because they got jobs. So they vote him again, even though when you watch him talking and you can see the crazy right behind his eyes, people will vote for what puts money into their pocket. Yeah. And Ted Cruz brings money into Texas. So that's why Ted Cruz keeps getting elected. It's just that simple.
I saw a scientist. He studied the human face, and he said Ted Cruz literally has the most punchable human face on the planet. like feature. He ran it down like feature by feature. He described his eyes, his mouth.
I see. I want him to do that. I'm not going to shit on Trump. Okay, I will shit on Trump. I think that Trump probably has the most punchable face in United States.
I disagree. I think Jerry has the most punchable face.
Who? Jerry?
The Surgeon General. Jerome. I've tried to lead the horses to the water here. Everybody, I've spent 2 solid weeks, just 2 solid weeks pointing out on Twitter.
Would you like an example?
Kevin, was there a Twitter or tweet that you wanted to point out before I started tweeting out a whole bunch of stuff?
Well, I was gonna do a progression of up to you of 3.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I got to share each one individually, don't I?
Okay, I think so. Unless you share your whole screen and just scroll through until you find them all.
All right.
So, Stephen, are you on Twitter?
I am. Yeah, we're being targeted. Or I'm sorry, we're ADV e-liquid. Yeah, we have a couple handles, but ADV is the one.
But do you have one?
A personal one? No. I don't even use my personal Facebook for messaging.
Okay, what is your
message you? That's periodically you actually answer.
No. For the messages I put out to the world regarding vapor are done in group. I don't do it in my personal account.
Yeah, Kevin, you're gonna have to rub that one because I can't see that.
That's what I was told before. So, Pirate,
rub it again.
Mark,
rub it again.
You want some more? Okay.
Yeah, rub it again.
Again? Son of a bitch! I can't see.
There you go. That's actually legible.
All right, so.
Oh, I love it.
I'm picking on Jerry because Jerry's an asshole. So because he has no courage or balls, this is what you deny. So I'm going to go straight down to Mark, who I think is still in the chat room. If he's not, then fine.
There he
had a 77-year-old woman in his store today, crying her eyes out, terrified she'll be forced back to smoking. She smoked for 65 years and has been smoke-free 3 months. This is a new vapor.
Wow.
So Mark is stressed enough, but scenes like that are killing me, he said. And that broke my heart. That's who I'm fighting for. That was my tweet above, but that's who I'm fighting for, and that's who Mark is fighting for. If I click off of this, do you see this one?
You have to share screen it again.
Damn it. Damn it. Now I got to find you guys. Here we go. So share screen, Chrome. All right. So this one comes to you from Demetrius. Bigger.
That's fine.
Is that good? So Demi's short and sweet. I don't know about that for sure, but that's what Phil may have said. Demi says, this is a telling image pointing out to you, Patrick. Corruption is simplified. So this is an example of you yesterday saying to Trumpster, Al, of course, and FDA Tobacco, they need to open their eyes. Failing to evolve and reform the PTA for innovation has led to blindness. Vaping technology is a technology created to kill smoking and should not be regulated in the same way. USDA has failed PTA reform for vape. And the picture, I'm assuming that shows up, is rolling cigars, and they're not going to regulate those for now. Well, they're regulating, but they're not worried about the PMTA, and they are for us.
So I actually amended that one today.
Had you? Okay.
So I amended that one because I did get some pushback, and I do. I actually, the points were made. So neither one of those technologies deserve over regulation, and my text on there was, one of these doesn't deserve. Neither one of them actually reserve over regulation. So anyway, I changed it to the FDA PMTA process wasn't designed for handcrafted artisanal cigars, nor for vaping products. Donald Trump, you need to push for the same exemption that the judge granted for premium cigars be given for e-liquids. Jobs and choices are threatened. PMTA reform. And then I changed the graphic so it says these products should not be regulated in the same way. You can't force a square peg into a round hole. Hashtag PMTA reform for vape.
Powerful tweet. Nice job.
So I just got the idea to show how they're manufactured. I mean, obviously, people don't quite understand the difference between regular cigars and premium cigars. So regular cigars that are sold in convenience stores that are mass produced are made by machines. Those are machine made cigars. And, you pay like $3 a piece or $2 a piece for those. Premium cigars are hand rolled, artisanal things, and you're paying anywhere between $7 and $30 or $40 or $50 or $100 for some sticks that are premium cigars. So obviously, the manufacturer for hand rolled cigars, they're done by hand. They have workbenches that they've been rolling those cigars out, and those tobacco oils have absorbed into the wood over generations. But yeah, I mean, obviously the graphic was designed specifically to show one is a tobacco product.
Yeah.
It is 100% tobacco product. While the other one is more of a technology product. I mean, we need to push the distinction between that, those two things.
Forbes just did that.
Yeah. So I did another tweet.
Yep.
This one actually got some legs. This one is, how can a product that is made 100% of tobacco be granted exemption from the pre-market tobacco application, while vaping, a 20th century technology product, is still forced to comply with the 19th century agricultural regulations? New regs for new products, FDA tobacco, hashtag PMTA reform. And that one actually did pretty good. It got 60 retweets and 87 likes. That's one of my.
I'm gonna give you kudos, Patrick. You're almost acting like a bot. So
that's my goal. The reason this last 2 weeks, I said this the other day. This last 2 weeks is I'm getting a lot of action on Twitter. And I spend a few minutes with each tweet, massaging it, getting the message out, and Most of the time, I type too many words and I have to rewrite it to make it fewer words, and it takes me a minute. I really, really want the next academic study into the Twitter activities of vaping people. I want to be one of the main. I want to be like you. I want to be one of the people that they say are not human beings. So Steve may not know this. Steve may not know this. Do you know, Stephen, that the federal government has spent millions of dollars over the last five years? Probably if you add up all of the stuff that I've found over the years, somewhere around $100 million over the last 7 years on watching us on social media.
Tweet.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
What,
so
through the vaping context?
Yes.
How vapors, vape companies, vape people interact on social media.
Yes.
And one of in at least 5 academic studies now of vapors on Twitter and vapors on social media, Kevin has been called out as a bot, that he is not a real human being, that he is a bot created by Big Tobacco to do advocacy on Twitter.
That's hilarious.
So
4 for sure. The 5th one, I can't figure out which one it is. I can't find it.
Oh, well, at least 4.
One I'm a bot.
Why would they invest that much money in vapor tweaking? What's the goal?
Because they're afraid.
Because of the success. So the first one that I can remember was done in Chicago. There was this huge push against the nicotine tax in Chicago, which that whole idea of the way that they were going to tax nicotine, and that's why a lot of shops in Chicago sell 0 milligram and then sell Nick shots, because that was the only way that they could survive. So during that buildup, there was tons. We have an army of European tweeters that when we're sleeping, they're tweeting, and when we're awake, we're tweeting. And they had so many tweets to the Department of Health in Chicago, to the politicians in Chicago. They said that there's too many tweets for this to be people. So they spent like $7 million building a survey, or not survey, a study to prove that we were not grassroots humans, that we were Big Tobacco bots.
I remember the claims that we were bots. Yeah, I just
so they've spent millions of dollars for people to look at analytics on Twitter and to decide that Kevin is a bot.
And sheep. We're impugning sheep as well.
There were I know of at least 5 people in that last one that were named bots that are people that I know.
Yeah. Jim McDonald, or no, it was either Jim or Vaping 360 was one of them.
Yeah, and then you were one, and
I was one. DRMA was another. Johnny is his handle for now. Johnny 2 Vapes. I forgot the other one.
The girl.
Was it Michelle?
No, the one that's the writer.
Michelle?
No. Michelle's not a writer. Michelle's a policy analyst.
No,
Amelia Howard.
Oh, Amelia. That's right.
So my goal is to get so good and so prolific on Twitter that I get named. Oh, I think Demetrius was named in one of them too as a bot.
Demi was an impugner. Definitely impugner. Brian Foytik. I forget who else offhand. They were in one of them.
Speaking of Brian Foytik, this week Brian posted something on Twitter, and I responded. It's not a vaping thing. It's like, name 3 TV theme songs that you like, or that you think are awesome. So I responded because my number one favorite movie or TV show music is the Rockford Files.
Yes,
the Rockford Files. Taxi, the theme song for Taxi. And the third one was the sad closing music on the Incredible Hulk, the TV show from when I was a kid. So immediately after I posted that, James Garner's daughter followed me on Facebook.
No way.
Yeah,
nice.
She runs apparently before he passed away.
Oh, did he die?
Yeah, he died like 5 years ago. But she apparently did all of his social media or whatever, and she is the official Twitter of James Garner, and she runs an animal shelter that's dedicated to him in his name. But she followed me just because I tweeted something about the Rockford Files. I was like,
the Rockford Files theme song was awesome.
That's awesome, man.
The tank.
Yes.
Awesome movie. I just watched it maybe 6 months ago. I watched it.
Yeah, like his kid, his kid gets in trouble and he like goes off and drives the tank through the town.
Roman tank to destroy a corrupt local sheriff.
It was crazy. That's a good movie.
Pip is in the room. Look at that.
Pip is in the room, and she's actually in Facebook. Normally, she's watching on Periscope.
Oh, Amelia was not the bot. She called out the study.
Oh, I thought she was one of the people that was named in it.
She actually wrote the write-up on Vaping 360 for Jim because she got an email about it, and they showed all the handles. And then the actual report that Pallone put into the Energy Commission calling us bots.
Stripped all the names.
Yeah, they pulled the names, but we were shown in court evidently. He hasn't still invited me down yet. And Bruni, you are a bot by association. So
hey, Pippa.
Automatically.
So
she's making noise too.
Owner that posted that original tweet telling the story about that 77-year-old woman.
Mark Sliss.
Mark Sliss in the chat room. He's
in the chat room.
Michigan. Yeah, he's the guy that sued the state of Michigan.
Oh, good for him.
When Governor Caitlyn Jenner tried to fuck all the vapors over.
We have a woman that comes into our store. It was pre flavor ban. Her name was Iris. She was probably in her 80s. She was terminally ill, throat cancer from smoking. And she came into the store and she said, "I'm going to die, and it will be from cigarettes. I just don't want to be a smoker when I die. Can you help me?" So we set her up with and I don't know if you've ever worked to convert an older person, but we lost our shirts on her. We million different devices, million different coil combos, liquid combo. It took us forever to find what would work for Iris, but she did. She made the switch. She quit smoking. She took up vaping, and she was so thrilled with herself. She knew that that her disease would eventually take her life. But again, her goal was, when I do die, I don't want the smoking, hung around my neck. I don't want to be a smoker when I die. Yep. And then the flavor ban came, and she came in just a mess. Like, what am I supposed to do? And we couldn't, legally sell her product. Yep. But I could legally, take products. I don't even know if it was legal, but we still give her product. We still give her. It's illegal, and I don't.
Dude, you give her shit, and I'll write you a check.
Oh, you're so sweet. I totally got to cover, but we hook her up with whatever she likes. And, she doesn't know she doesn't understand any of this. She just couldn't believe that something that, she was able to, she said, if I had just known, if this was just available, my life may have been extended. I may have had more time with my grandkids, Yep. And the state said, nope.
Fuck you.
That's why we do what we do in our own ways, period.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin and I don't work in the industry. Kevin and I are both regular just consumers that get to come on and bitch and moan about the industry.
Yeah.
That means that if I DIY e-liquid and somebody sends me an address, I can send them my DIY stuff as a gift.
What? And
Kevin, what do you do? What do you do for work?
I don't do anything right now except bitch and complain.
Well, he's old. He's retired. He doesn't work anymore.
Good for you.
So I want to commend you for bending rules. That's something that's.
He didn't bend any rules, dude. We don't want any record saying that he broke the rule.
No, I did. I flat out broke the law, and I'm proud of it. I have no issues with it. We'll give her liquid for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing that says that as a human being that you can't give something to another human being.
I don't care. I would love for someone to try and take action.
Yes.
Go ahead. Ask me.
I almost want somebody. I almost want somebody to get in trouble.
Jail time.
Just so that we can fucking sue the fuck out of somebody.
Well, like I was telling you, this girl I was telling you about, she's up on a significant.
Well, I don't. It was Juul stuff, so I'm less passionate about Juul stuff. But
I hear you. But I mean, hey, we either believe in harm reduction or we don't. I've never said a negative thing about Juul, the product on this show. I get it.
I fucking think that the product itself is perfect. I mean, literally, it does what it's supposed to do. Millions of people like it. I mean, they didn't get to where they are because people didn't like their fucking product. Now, the company that makes the product or that markets the product, because I know that they're made in China and they didn't fucking make them. They may have designed them. China makes them. I really think that the company itself is horrible. I really think they made some fucking bad choices. They went for themselves. They pretty much made if you look at their actions, they made actions that yes, as a company, they have a fiduciary responsibility to their stockholders to make more money. I mean, that is the fucking job of a corporation. And they did that. They made choices and decisions that would benefit them over the rest of the industry, which in most industries is what is expected. So, as a
tax that their lobbyists pushed, and they were very successful pushing it.
Yeah,
that to me
benefited them, made them money.
Yeah,
fucked everybody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
it should have been per milligram tax.
Yeah,
that would have been fair.
That a per milligram per milliliter tax,
right? I mean,
that's not. I mean, if you start looking at it, I know that you produce product all the way up to 18 milligram.
We do. 85% of our business is 3 milligram.
Right, but as a 12 milligram vapor and an 18 milligram vapor, when I'm in a bad mood, and I've been here for 10 years and I ain't fucking going any lower than 12. I champion the fact the people don't quite understand the reason I vape 12 milligram is I don't have time to sit around and vape 3 or 6 until I get the nicotine that I want or that my body wants. I want to be able to take a couple puffs and do my shit.
What are your stats on your ohm? What ohm coil you run and how many watts?
We'll do a commercial for Anakin right now. This is the Zenith Pro. Designed by Demetrius Agrafiotis and Phil Basardo, made by Anakin. It is the 0.8 ohm coil, and it is currently at 15 watts.
Yeah, that's a nice vape.
This is this is a really fancy box mod, but it's still a Zenith. This is a Anakin Zlide tank, and it is also a 0.8 ohm coil, and it is at 16 watts.
Yeah, that's pretty typical for high milligram vapor.
And then this is the billet box blue mother of pearl button.
Is that a real?
Well, fuck yeah! I mean,
there's a lot of phones out there.
And this is the Aspire Nautilus coil 0.75.
That's like Star Trek shit.
It is at 16 watts.
Yeah. That coil changed vaping forever.
Yeah, I give Aspire tons of money for the 0.7 because I'm holding this particular device up because Paul Blomeyer in the chat room is coveting my matchy. I have this one. I have this one right here.
Big Aspire fan.
You could send me a couple boxes of those. I would not hate you.
Those are Cleto 120 coils.
Oh, fuck that! I don't.
Low ohm, high watt.
Yeah. So I vape this almost exactly the same way now as I vaped when I started. Yep. I used to build my K-Fun.
Kaifun.
Whatever. I have probably 14 K-Funs or Kai-Funs, and I vape almost exactly the same, somewhere between 1 ohm and 0.8.
You got a Plasmera kit for at least one of them?
A what?
The Plasmera kit?
Well, I have a handmade plasma tank by Trippy Tips. I have this one.
Are you teasing Patrick, Paul as well for these?
No, I don't think Paul covets the K-Funds as much as he covets.
I just want to call you.
I have about 5 plasma tanks.
Paul's giving the 120 some love. I think the 120 is the best sub-ohm tank on the market, and it has been for 4 years in a row.
Well, I mean, my fear, because I probably have another 15 or 20 Kabuki tanks.
Oh, yeah, goodness.
You know, Mike Morgan and House of Hybrids. I mean, this is one of my. This is the one of one hand engraved kois on a nickel plated brass tube. This is one of my most prized possessions. Because when I asked for that, there was only one nickel plated tube left, and he was never going to make any more.
Man, you remember what high end was like? That was the chase. It was
I mean,
so much fun.
I reached out to him about 6 months ago, and I said, "Hey, do you have any black Z3 or Z3 threaded Kabukis left?" And he said, let me look. And I said to Chris, do you have any 18350 black tubes left? He's like, yeah. So the next thing I know, like, I get a package in the mail, and it's a You know, I could have gotten my fat ass up and actually walked over there. But, you know, these are the kinds of friends that, you know, when you've been around, you just ask a couple questions, and the next thing you know, in the mail, you get this really cool shit like this in the mail.
Yeah.
And, you know,
vaping.
Even, I mean, this is not high end. I mean, Dan Donahue's in there saying, you know, Hemo is so 2018, because all of these components, if you ordered it and built it yourself, is only going to cost you about $150. I mean, this is not, you know, I've been to events. This is how sick it is. You know, like 4 years ago, you go to an event, you go to Vape Showcase or something, and they have the Modders Gallery.
Yeah.
And they have auctions, and you see guys dropping $4,000.
Yeah.
On fucking Stabwood mods. And you're like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They got much some of the oh god, what was his name? The Powell, the Polish mod maker.
Yeah,
Geppetto.
Yeah, Geppetto's.
I've seen those go as high as 20
for a fucking piece of wood with a chip in it. You know,
well,
you're like,
it was, you know, it was Hemo, you know, back in the glory days where guys were just, you know, slapping dicks on tables. It was more about the biggest dick than it was about whether or not you're getting any value for the mod. But yeah, Dan will remember.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Stabwood, like, handmade. Like, this guy puts a lot of time into putting these together, and he doesn't charge anything like that for these.
It wasn't, Powell didn't charge that. He charged about $400 for a brand new Geppetto. It was just the limited nature of them brought out the worst impulses, you know, in vapors in the high-end scene back in 2014, 2015.
Wow.
You know, that was when Todd Wages was out there dropping big money. John was heavy into that trade. I mean, there was some guys.
I was at an event. A guy chartered a fucking plane to fly to the event just to bid on something.
Yeah, it was insane for a while there.
Did he bring Demetrius in?
Dan Donahue's still in here?
Yeah, Dan's still here. He said, you know, he's not, you know, I don't think he was being negative about Hemo. It's just that, you know, I was particularly saying it just because of the relationships that you make in this community. Like I just said to somebody, hey, do you have this part? And the next thing I know, they've put 2 and 2 together and sent me what I wanted.
They're amazing people, man.
Mike Morgan and Chris at the, Mike Morgan is Zen.
Yep.
From the House of Hybrids, and Chris at the ZFO are great people, like human beings. They're amazing human beings. And I call them friends, and I've never gotten to go to New York State, to upstate New York, to go to to Mike's, place. But, there's tons of people like that in this community where you just say something, and the next thing you know, they're there, it doesn't even have to be something big and fancy. Look, I mean, I picked on Kevin last week or the week before because Demetrius sent him a care package with the slide kit, and he got the limited edition blue slide kit, and I'm like, that's a big deal.
See you, Bill.
He's already lost it. He went to go look for it, and he's already lost it. There are good people in this industry that
they're amazing. I've met some awesome fucking people.
Yes.
Really great people.
Yes.
And everybody's different,
Oh,
the good thing is
the variety of my friends is it's such an eclectic group. It's it's awesome, and it's beyond just vaping. It's just having friends from different skill level, just such a wide variety of skills and experience. If I have any question about life or cars or electrical or financial, I got somebody on my friends list that knows the answer. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think I just saw somebody post something about AC repair in a vape thing, and somebody's like, "Oh, I work on AC."
Right.
You're like, shit.
And they're there for you. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Dan is here. Dan is one of the true gems of a friend I picked up along the way in vaping. I love that man.
Back in old timey days, I mean, most of us, or at least I got my start on the internet because I got. Everybody goes to ECF. I actually got banned on ECF quite fast.
I did.
So I wasn't able to go there, but I found the video shows. Like we started out on a thing called Stickcam, which I believe was probably started out as some sort of gamer thing or whatever. But the people were just coming on and live streaming and talking just like we do here, and they were half the time they were just sitting there like playing music and just chatting.
Yeah.
But you meet all these people in the chat room. That's where I met Demetrius, was in one of those type of shows. And all these amazing people over the years. I mean, I think I met Owl, Andrew K. I think that's probably where I first met Owl, was in those like things. And then we've slowly but surely built up like to Facebook and YouTube and having all these other outlets. But that's how we started. And they would do, like giveaways, and Andrew from Delaware Vapor would show up, and he had a program or whatever, and he'd say, okay, we're gonna just take a random name and give everybody or give somebody a bottle of e-liquid, and that was fine, that was cool. That's how we started. That's probably where I met Troop and Andrea from the Plume Room, was probably in one of those Justin TV or Stickcam or Vapors TV channels back when they, were there. And that's, we were a community. I mean, I got a fucking power supply, like an independent battery backup as a giveaway in one of those shows. And I still use the damn thing.
Oh, nice.
So, people that's where we met each other. That's where like a new person could come in and say, hey, you know what? I just bought an Ego because that was what was the thing at the time. And it's not working or blah, blah, blah. And people would chat with them and explain to them, what they're doing wrong or how to do it better or whatever. It was cool. And we were like a tight group of people,
So
I believe some of the first vaping conventions were started by one of the vape TV guys.
What changed, and where's it going to look? What's it going to look like in a year?
Well, I think obviously, some people are getting booted off of different streaming services and things like that. But there's going to be, whether we have a dedicated thing, kind of like old school message board that just so happens to maybe have a video platform built into it so that people can come in and be housed on a separate thing. So, maybe an overseas server somewhere. Or
what do you think is going to happen with gear? What do you think is going to happen with liquid?
Well, I don't think FDA is going to go after hardware anytime soon. I don't think that that's anywhere close to a priority for them. They're, if there's no liquid, the gear's redundant, right?
They're focused on the drug.
I don't think that they're going to go after the delivery devices. I think that the companies that attempt some sort of PMTA, they put in whatever the hardware requirements are. If Anakin is one of those companies, or Aspire, or any of those people. Now, obviously, handmade gear is probably going to be a hard thing because most of the people that make like handmade box mods aren't going to be able to do a PMTA. But people that make,
I don't think they're going to give a shit about regulation.
I don't think that they're going to. I mean, as long as they go after the bad actors in the actual drug, I don't think the delivery device is going to be so important to them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Obviously, if in their mind, if they get rid of the bad actors, if they get rid of the people in their mind, in 14, and I've quoted this in the last 3 or 4 shows. In 2014, they released their financial impact analysis, and they predicted 99.9% of the industry will exit. In 2016, they did an amended version and made a few changes, and their prediction did not change. Still, 99.9% of the industry will exit. I think that they're fully aware, and they know if they can get rid of 99.9% of the industry and monitor the 0.1% that's left, they'll be able to regulate. I don't think that they have any intention or desire to regulate. I don't know how many SKUs are put on the Furl's website right now, but I know that it's over 1 million.
Yeah.
They don't want to regulate 1 million SKUs. They don't want to regulate.
I think that has a lot to do with it too. The expense of allowing all the players to stay on market, to regulate all those players, I don't think the FDA wants.
They would have to have an army of literally as many we could take every military person in the United States military that are serving the country and make them FDA people, and we probably still wouldn't have enough.
Yeah, I think they'd rather regulate.
They only want to regulate a handful of companies. They want to control the distribution nodes. They want to be able to go to a handful of places and say, okay, you're doing good. Convenience stores. If you figure there's over 150,000 convenience stores in the United States, that they're able to monitor 150,000 convenience stores for cigarette sales. Mm-hmm. So if they're already monitoring them for cigarettes.
Yeah, but the FDA offloads that to local boards of health and
yes, and that's exactly what they would do with vaping.
Well, they already have the infrastructure in place. It was obviously passed as a state law. They attempted to do it through executive order. People griped, eventually made it law, but they outsourced the enforcement to local boards of health.
Yeah. And that's what they've always done.
It was, every shop got a visit from their local board of health within 2 weeks.
Yeah. And you're in Plymouth, right?
Yes. Right. You can see Plymouth Bay. You can see the Mayflower from my shop, from the front door of my shop.
So you've got what, 4 people that are the board of health that come around?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm guessing because I dealt with that with something years ago. So 4 people are responsible for how many shops in your area?
In my town, there were only 2 shops in Plymouth.
Right. So double the manpower. And some places have 10 shops,
Yeah.
And they have one guy,
Right.
so the county or the city or
But it is an intimidating. I mean, when your local board of health walks into your building, it's an intimidating thing, especially if you want to be a responsible, law-abiding, business. When they come in and they tell you the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be. It's a local board. It's not like, so the FDA comes and visits. The FDA has been to my facility 3 times in 6 years, and a little bit of a different experience. It's an FDA agent. He comes in, he flies in, he does his thing, and he leaves. But your local board of health, you share a town with them. They drive by your shop every day.
Well, here, the local board of health just wore an FDA name tag.
Did they really?
They subcontract. Yeah, what they do is they subcontract out the enforcement. And what happens is in tobacco stings is FDA doesn't care about the money. So when they subcontract out, the local Department of Health gets to collect the funds for any fines that are levied and goes directly back into the Board of Health. So that's why they've done that. I actually have a page here somewhere that has the subcontractors for every state and for every county in the United States for tobacco control.
Yeah.
Very few of them are actually done by FDA.
So
they're either done by departments of health or subcontract companies that are private companies. In some counties in Texas, it's private companies. In other counties, it's the Department of Health. Very few outside of the DC metro area are actually FDA employees.
Two of them are actually done by.
Oh shoot!
They're either done by department.
Hey, I can hear my voice.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, financing enforcement's not an issue because the enforcement's going to be done by departments of health who are looking for ways to find money for themselves for their own departments of health. So if they go in here, if you sell to a youth one time, you have to write a warning or you have to write a letter explaining how you're going to correct that behavior. If they get you a second time, they fine you.
Yeah.
So that money goes right into the department of the county Department of Health.
So do you think there's going to be a big liquid sell-off?
I actually got an email today for $1.99 60 mil liquids.
Yeah. So the market will become flooded.
Yeah.
The sell-off started about a week ago. Actually, one of the flavor companies, or not flavor companies, one of the suppliers had a 50% off sale on almost all of their flavors.
Did Vape Wild throw in the towel?
Vape Wild announced that they after the day after they would be closing the doors after the PMTA deadline, the day after the next day.
Amazing.
Big. And they were a large company. I actually met them about 5 years ago at an event, and that was before they were a large company, and it was just 3 dudes. What was funny was the premier sponsor of the event was Mount Baker Vapor. And the Vape Wild guys had their entire display was anti Mount Baker Vapor. Like they were dogging the little blue, because Mount Baker had little blue tops on all their bottles. That was one of their things. And they were bashing the hell out of that. And I don't know if they realized that Mount Baker was the premier sponsor of the event, because the organizers came over with spray paint and spray painted their entire backdrop.
Oops.
But they actually had some sort of arrangement with one of the tobacco companies. I think RJ Reynolds or somebody, because they were selling tobacco products on their website. And the rumor had been that either RJ Reynolds had bought them or had invested in them, kind of like a Vail. And it kind of surprised me. It took me kind of off base when I saw that they had made the announcement that they were no longer going to be doing business after the PMTA deadline. And, they're on the board of ETA, I believe.
Yeah. Liana makes a good point about the FDA being in possession of all registered manufacturers' intellectual property, all their recipes.
Actually, it's already illegal for them to do that.
To do what?
To give away your recipes, for example.
Of course.
Yeah. So
but
they have control of your intellectual property, and if they were to release that data or information to anybody, there's a big fucking lawsuit right there. Yep. And they know it. They're not, obviously they're keeping in their records the formulations for every pharmaceutical product on the market.
Right.
And they've never they've never messed that up. So they're not going to mess up your e-liquids. Your anything you submit to the government's already protected. So there's no reason to have them sign an NDA because it's already protected. So yeah, right now during the COVID, Dan Donahue's making a point. Yeah. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Dan Donahue's making a point that they have more pressing issues, but funding for them is always important. And the tobacco part, at least here, the Department of Health have a separate tobacco control department, and we're not a huge city. 300,000 people, but I don't imagine, like I said a while ago, I don't imagine that anything's going to happen immediately. But they do have infrastructure in place to enforce when they decide to do it.
So, I do think, though, at the state level, not even at the FDA level, certain states that just have a hit on for vapor, they're waiting for the date.
Gretchen Whitmer's going to come after you guys in Michigan. Jay Inslee's going to go after the guys in his state. Your governor's going to go after because they're already. I don't imagine Cuomo's going to fucking wait a minute.
Nope.
My state's already suing Juul.
Yeah. Huh?
So yeah, there's gonna be. I live in Texas. I don't imagine that Greg Abbott's going to push for anything. For any state enforcement on his own. But other states, there are going to be states that are, as soon as the FDA deadline occurs, they're going to go around and demand to see your PMTA acceptance letter.
Yep.
And then the states that already are taxed, there's a line for them.
Yeah. So whether FDA enforces or the asshats in charge of each state, obviously there are states where, California, they love regulating fuckers. Massachusetts, they love it. New York has already been about as vocal anti-vaping as you can possibly be. Mm-hmm. And, that action, Cuomo loves getting in front of a camera. So the moment that he, that they bust a bunch of people in New York, he's going to go on TV and say, "Look, everybody, I saved your kids from the evil vaping companies. These companies didn't submit their products to FDA, so we're going to go after them." There's going to be some places where it happens faster than others.
There's going to be examples made in those states specifically.
Other places, not so much. But yes, I believe that in a couple of those states that have been very vocal anti-vaping, the states are going to act on behalf of the FDA, whether FDA asks them to do it or not.
Because they can.
Because they can.
That's And in your story earlier of helping the little old lady who has cancer, those things disappear. Yeah. So that's heartbreaking.
But back to the Twitters, I did have a Twitter that I wanted a tweet that I wanted to point out, because I'm saying shit that I think that people need to pay attention to and to realize, because I still see people, and some of the replies to this tweet will point out the exact reason I had to make the tweet. So, this is specifically After 4 years in the White House, Donald Trump can't say he is unaware of the issues around vaping in the United States. He met with industry leaders, heard about FDA tobacco's overreach, impending death of jobs and customer or consumer freedom at the hands of government appointees. He never cared. So, that one got a couple love. That got the 31 retweets, but I start going down and, so this guy is a libertarian person, and he's like, Donald Trump doesn't care about vapors. He could have done something by now if he did. Our only chance is libertarian. I'm not really pushing for Joe Jorgensen. And then obviously, he retweeted a comment. Obviously, he's an idiot. He's not going to do anything. And then, this guy here says, I think after those meetings, his opinion changed, and he didn't need to ban, but had pressure from wife who didn't get educated. And he stated he wished he'd never gotten involved with it. Yes, he did say that.
He did say that.
I put here, standing between small business and government functionaries who plan on crushing them is Donald Trump's job. If he didn't want the task, he shouldn't have ran on a small government cut unnecessary regulation platform. He said that he said what he did because he had to deal with he said what he said about I wished I'd never gotten involved because it got kind of murky and muddy and blah, blah, blah. So somebody, I thought it was on this thread, somebody said, well, I still think he's going to do something. And somebody blocked me. Somebody replied and then blocked me.
That's because you're a friggin' bot.
Because I believe this is probably the person that said, I think Donald Trump is going to save vaping. And I replied back, where's your fucking head? If he was going to do something, he would have done it in November when he had the meeting with everybody before COVID. You can make all the excuses you want to because, he's too busy fighting COVID. Well, he wasn't fighting COVID in November when he had the meeting.
You had some seriously good tweets this week, I'm telling you.
And I'm kind of pissed off. Oh, here it is. This is the one. Because somebody said, well, he switched sides. And I said, how exactly has he switched sides? He had a meeting, made some comments, has done nothing. If he intended to help the industry, he'd have acted after that meeting. We're less than 30 days away from the decimation of vaping. Other than a photo op, Trump hasn't done anything. So, a lot of the fucking Trumper people are still holding on to the fact that Trump is going to save vaping. And
the apologists and the zealots just don't get it.
Well, and Dan points out something here. He says, when Kamala Harris is POTUS in 6 months, everything will change again. So I actually tweeted about this because I think people should understand. Biden said in the article that everybody keeps sharing that Biden said he's going to fucking close vaping down. That is not actually what he said. What he said was we would go with the science. Now, the Democrats, when it comes to vaping science, they haven't really had a good record of following the science. And obviously, Kamala Harris has come out and basically said, we should remove all these products from the market. So they've pretty much clearly put out their intentions. Obviously, Donald Trump has never really said that he's going to save vaping. What he has said is that he's pro small business. He's pro cutting of regulation. So he's, other than his tweet where he said we need to do something about this.
He did imply at one point that he was going to remove tobacco enforcement from the FDA's.
I don't think he did. I think what was that cat's name that's no longer there that did the really cool video that we shared? He had a name that sounded like somebody else's name.
Was it Paul from?
No, it wasn't Paul. It was actually one of Donald Trump's health advisors that was on TV, and he's got a name. Somebody's going to remember it and put it in there, but he was actually on TV, and he said, "Yes, Joe Grogan." See, I knew it was. He sounded like Joe Rogan. Joe Grogan was an advisor for the president, and he went on TV and he said, "I really don't understand why the people that regulate medicine are regulating tobacco, and we should remove them." But I don't believe Trump ever said that. Yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden said that we'd go with the science, which we pretty much know the Democrats don't typically do that when it comes to vaping. And Kamala Harris has basically said, we're going to go after vaping because I don't like vaping, or we're going to pull those products from the market. We have Trump that's said, I'm pro small business, anti-regulation, but his vice president, Mike Pence, passed one of the most restrictive vape legislations ever when he was the governor of Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So none of these people that are running, if you're voting on vaping, have any history where you would make you believe that they're going to be pro vaping.
No, that's why I'm very bearish on the future of vaping in that respect, or its current iteration. We have no allies. We have each other, but we have no one in Washington, no one at the local level. I mean, who's the most prolific advocate? Who's the most well-known pro-vaping advocate in Washington that you could name?
Well, not in Washington. The AG of Iowa has been pretty good. Ron Johnson has written a few letters.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard to say anybody's been prolifically. I mean, obviously Duncan Hunter, which was a fucking a mess and a half.
What a mess.
I've been hammering Trump, by the way. I've been hammering him on Twitter.
Yeah, good for you, man.
Sending some pretty shocking stuff. So I said, this is what you're responsible for, Donald Trump, if you allow FDA to kill the vaping industry with your current PMTA pathway. 480,000 smokers dying every year, gasping for breath. Crushing innovative solutions to a public health tragedy kills people. Hashtag PMTA reform. And then I found a picture of a guy dying of COPD.
Yeah. Has Paul Blair kind of backed off? What's he saying these days?
Backed off. I mean, obviously, he was just on Regulator Watch this week. Yeah. This week, actually, and I don't think there was anything new in there. I mean, obviously, they're still doing I mean, they're not a pro vaping. I mean, they're not a vaping only organization. Americans for Tax Reform
did make a pretty good argument. Purely for the numbers, the constituency that vapors represent is significant enough that one in a tight presidential election should pay attention to it.
Yeah.
If people follow through, I think the number of vapors that keep getting circulated is way overblown. I don't believe that number is accurate. It might have been accurate 2 years ago, might have been accurate 3 years ago. The newest numbers are showing that there's probably less than 3 million full-time users of vapor products in the United States. If you throw in like part-time users and C-stores people and things like that, you might get to 13 million or might get to 11 million, but you're not going to get to 13 million.
That number's always been overblown, but
that number's hugely overblown.
If everybody else,
that number comes directly from Altria's investor letter, where they're motivated to throw that out because they were promoting their vapor product in that investor call and that quarterly statement. I don't believe that number is accurate.
No. But it's a nice number to throw around that will get a president's attention during a tight election.
If they believe it.
Yeah.
That's the thing is if they believe it. I mean, the last time that number got thrown, during the last election cycle, they used, that's when that original We Vape, We Vote stuff really started, was during the run up for Trump. And, he won in places that he wasn't supposed to and that have high numbers of vapors. So there could be a correlation, but we don't know. So I don't know that politicians have learned to be afraid of that yet. I think when they look at the number of people that actually call in or that write letters to them, I mean, I've spoken to politicians here, in Texas, who say when we ask them to participate in calls to action, we ask them to write letters, and they don't get any, or they get very few. So when we tell them that there's so many vapors and the vapors don't actually follow through, it's really hard to prove that point.
That's the point of my premise. So let's do an autopsy on what a successful political movement looks like, because it's going to require only politics can solve this problem right now. The policy's in place, and that train is going to keep rolling. PMTA is policy. It's going to keep rolling. The only thing that can intervene is politics. So what does a great political movement look like? And I guess my point is everything you put in that list, we can't check off in our box. We don't have any of it.
Well, I mean, things like that UVA rally. If obviously it sucks that this is happening during the COVID thing, and I would go, but then I have to come back. When I come back, I won't be able to work for 30 days.
Right. Yep.
Not only the 14-day quarantine, but then the company for my company it is, especially when I'm traveling outside of the state.
Right.
So I can't go. I couldn't survive without working for 30 days. There's just no fucking way.
Pal, what's your status? You married, kids? I don't know anything.
I'm married. I don't have any kids.
No kids?
I live a life of luxury. I don't want any children ruining my fun. But yeah, I mean, the wife works. She makes more money than me, but we still couldn't survive on only one income.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just no fucking way. I work in healthcare, and obviously, I work in the most at-risk demographic for this.
Yeah.
I work with geriatrics. I have a patient that's 102 years old.
Hey, can I ask you a question totally unrelated to the vapor topic? I'm just to tap the experience from folks with unique experiences. So you do physical therapy for older folks, right?
Yes.
Have you ever treated someone with significant arthritis of the facet joints?
Yes.
And what PT protocol would you recommend for them?
Well, for mostly when you have, that's a cervical neck issue. The facets, because there's the disc space in the cervical spine is smaller than in the rest of the spine. The discs, some of the vertebrae don't even have discs. So at the atlas and the axis, the two top ones, C1, C2, there's no discs in there. So the facets are little legs that are at the bottoms and the tops of each cervical vertebrae, and they sit on top of each other like this. So what happens when you have a neck problem that they're out of alignment is the facets do this. And then through that space, there's nerves that run through. So then you end up having pinched nerves and things like that. So we do manual traction. We don't use traction machines anymore, but we do what we call distraction. We try to align you, do neck exercises to strengthen the muscles in your neck to keep you in alignment. You go to, and I'm not going to go anti-chiropractor on you, but the chiropractor will put you back into alignment, but then don't give you the exercise program and the other parts of the treatment to keep you in alignment because they want you to come back.
Yeah.
So, for that particular problem, we want to know how you got out of alignment and strengthen the muscles so that you stay in neutral and you stay in alignment.
Yeah.
So a little distraction, little exercise.
Yeah. Sorry for the diversion.
No, I mean that's cool. I mean, before I did this, I have a master's degree in forensic anthropology, so I know how to take a body apart and put it back together pretty good. He distracted me. Now I don't remember what I was talking about. I'm gonna chug some more rye.
Yeah, you better. I can't believe you chug it like that. Jesus Christ.
In a stainless steel container.
Yeah,
there is a couple ice cubes in there.
Unreal. So what's going on in the comments here? Let's see what
his Twitter is on fire for months.
Greg, I think, is alluding to vape companies pissing their money away on trash, which I think we've seen plenty of.
Dan has made a really good comment, and this goes back to your comment about Johnson.
Yeah.
The everybody has a revenue problem. That's whether that's the comment was, or the point was made that they don't have the money to enforce. The states don't have the money to pay off their fucking tobacco bonds. Yeah. Everybody's got money problems. Obviously, during the COVID, everybody's got fucking money problems anyway, because half the state's unemployed and people can't go to work, which is sucks.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's it's always and obviously everything boils down to, in the entire history of this country, is nobody has any fucking money.
If this were truly a tobacco product and they could rope it into a master settlement agreement style contract, because that's what it is.
It's not.
We wouldn't have any
master settlement agreement is a legal contract. It is not a. It is not a law. It is not.
It's not an agreement.
Yeah,
it's a contract.
So, obviously. I'll throw some more attention on this. On September 5th, Donald Trump, a bunch of folks will be right out in front of your house to talk to you about vaping and crushing FDA overregulation. If you don't act, 13,000 small businesses will die 4 short days later. PMTA reform is necessary to stop 130,000 people from losing their jobs. And then, it gives you the address. This is where everybody's going to be for the 4 hours of this rally on the 5th in D.C.
The literal lawn of the White House. It is part of White House property.
Who's lined up?
I believe it's probably going to. I know Demetrius and Phil are talking. Both of them. Neither of them were at the first rally. I'm sure Sherwin's going to talk, and I'm sure Tristan's going to talk. I don't know. I think Michelle Minton was going to go. I don't know if she's not going to go.
He's pretty good.
I don't know. I haven't seen anything from Cully either, so I don't know. He and obviously Alex gave an amazing speech at the last one.
Yeah, that was great.
And James, were you there, Steve?
Yeah.
Where's you?
Oh yeah, I'm sure James is going to be back, and Nick will probably be there too.
We walked right around each other then. Good.
Oh, damn it! It was cold, man. I think it was
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to do the same thing this time as I did the last time. Is I'm going to find somebody that's streaming it and I'll restream it.
Yeah.
Because I can do that. But and tweet. I think I'm learning. I'm learning how to do this Twitter thing now.
Oh, Amanda's speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark said Amanda's up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Amanda Wheeler.
We need 100 more of her. She's amazing.
Love her to death. She's been on, like I said, she's been on the show. She has her own special hashtag.
Yep. Where's it at?
Hashtag Nutto. Nuto. Is it Nuto?
It's Nuto. It's
Nose
copywritten.
up, tits out.
Nose up, tits out. Made me laugh.
If I had created that hashtag, if I had been the one that said it, the Me Too people would be all after me. So it's a good thing that a lady created that.
And bot shit was from Dr. Glover.
That's Dr. Glover. After all that time of us being such good boys when she was on the show and not being controversial and not using foul language and not, and just being as polite and gentle as possible, she drops bot shit on us.
That's right.
Hashtag bot shit.
Loved it.
So yeah. So you've asked us questions, so we'll ask Steve questions now. Kevin, do you have any questions for Steve?
What is your Twitter and what is your website? I think I already have your website.
He doesn't have a Twitter.
No, it's
ADV.
It's ADV. Where it just start searching ADV Liquid, you'll find us.
ADV Liquid, okay.
Yep. Yeah, we're pretty quiet on Twitter.
There we go. I think that's what.
So Rob has a question on YouTube. I'm going to throw it up there because it's the first question on YouTube tonight. So doesn't it take an act of Congress to modify the PMTA regulations and not Trump? So here's the thing. Prior to this recent Dreamer Supreme Court ruling, excuse me, it had been expected or accepted that the only way to change the PMTA regulations or the PMTA requirements was an act of Congress. Now, thinking is because their ruling basically said that although Obama's Dreamer executive order didn't really strictly follow the Constitution, that as the president, he has powers that are not defined by the Constitution, which seems odd, but that is essentially the ruling. So Trump has decided that that means that he can write any executive order he wants, and he can until somebody challenges it, which would then go back to the Supreme Court. So I think there are a lot of people that are relying on the fact that maybe he can write an executive order to alter or amend or change, because obviously we know that a judge can change the PMTA requirements because he exempted premium cigars in a ruling this week. A judge this week from federal district court ruled that the cigar manufacturers do not have to follow the PMTA because FDA did a shitty job when it came to communicating with the cigar industry, delineating what their expectations were, and listening to the cigar industry's concerns and acting on them, is essentially what that ruling says, which are all arguments that we made to Judge Grimm in his district court, and he denied our points. So it goes to show, if you get the right judge, you could possibly get what you want. And we thought that Judge Grimm was going to be one of those judges, and I think that maybe if we'd have gone to a different district and gotten a different judge, it might have been different. But neither here nor there, you can't change it. So apparently, the FDA deeming can be circumvented by the courts, and apparently, or people are thinking that with this new ruling from the Supreme Court that gives the executive orders that a president writes more power or the ability to circumvent parts, or to, if it doesn't clearly say in the Constitution that he can't do it,
yeah,
they're saying he can.
He doesn't give a shit about the legality of executive orders. If he could.
So if the Constitution says you can't do it, then you can't do it. But if it doesn't say that, if it doesn't specifically say in there, then there's wide latitude, apparently.
But he could begin dialogue by creating one. Let people fight it out, but at least it would begin the dialogue. There's no event that's going to stimulate action other than post PMTA and the decimation of the industry. That's the final.
You know, the consumers, for example, I can't participate in a class action lawsuit against the FDA until the damage has been done, right? You can't define a class. So part of the class action suit is the actual suit has to define what the class is, and there has to be some sort of damage for that to happen. So the only way consumers can participate in a lawsuit against the FDA is after doomsday and after enforcement. Then I can say, well, you've caused me harm by removing the less harmful delivery device that I use for my nicotine, which is going to shorten my life. So then you can define a class, and then you have to go to court and agree or argue that there is actual harm and what the dollar amount for that harm is. So, yeah. So a lot of stuff is going to happen after doomsday and after enforcement, but can't happen until that happens.
Yeah.
If you understand that.
But this is going to happen. I mean, September 9 is going to happen.
Yep.
There's no stopping this.
So yeah, Bucky makes the same point I did. If Trump actually wanted to help us, he would lean on Azar and tell him to accept all filed PMTAs and figure out what else they need later. They only have to accept what is filed to keep us alive. So the problem with that is that Trump hasn't done that. Trump hasn't asked Azar to do shit, and I don't think he's going to, because the Puritans, the the Baptists, you always hear the Baptists and the bootleggers, right? The Baptists are going to publicly, and I'm not saying this against Baptists, but it's a phrase. The religious right, for example, the anti-fun people are going to pull support for him if he comes out vocally for vaping, because we're a sin, right? The whole premise in their thinking is that any vice is a sin, and if he comes out pro vaping, there are going to be religious right. There are going to be very super conservative groups that are going to be anti-vaping, and there are, obviously. So yeah, he loses votes either way. And he has to figure out which one in his base is more plentiful. So yeah, we're just fucked.
Yeah,
that's what Greg said.
That's why we're flying the pirate flag, baby.
Yeah,
we're gonna be skullduggers and bootleggers and pirates.
It's gonna go back to the way it started.
That's what I said earlier. Similarly, not exactly, but similarly.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I am never, if a guy comes to me and says I smoke but I want to vape, I'm going to figure out a way to help him. I got a cabinet full of devices that have never been opened.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may not be the top of the line, they may be old iTaste stick battery type things, but and I have a case of CE Force over here.
Hey,
we converted millions of people with an ego fucking battery and a CE4. We can do it again.
Ego battery, what?
We can do it again.
Were you vaping earlier? It looked like an old original Nautilus.
Yeah, it's a Nautilus. Of course,
Nautilus Mini.
The Slide with the Nautilus on this one, but I haven't used his tank yet. Their tank yet. I'm saving that for something else.
The Anakin.
This one's a pro tank with a special label because it's something I made, believe it or not. So I'm kind of scaring myself. But
Kevin and I reached out to you actually when I started thinking about trying DIY again, and asking for you never reply back in text. It's always like video or audio calls or audio recordings. So I have audio recordings of him saying, you don't need all that. Just do this and this and this. I did go with the scales and the fancy gadget version of DIY, but it works for me, so
and the shaker.
Stirrer, magnetic stirrer, because it's fancy and I like gadgets and stuff. But Kevin also just started DIYing, and he's doing the put a couple drops in this and shake it up and
yeah.
If I have to go on to a recipe website to find somebody that wants to have a mother's milk clone. If that will help them not smoke, I will fucking DIY mother's milk for them or whatever.
Yeah.
Paul's already answered some questions. Jennifer's answered questions for me, whether it's me or the wife.
Yeah, no, huh? Jennifer and Paul have been amazing. Paul in the chat room and Jennifer, who's normally in the chat room, are DIY experts when it comes to what flavors and what concentrations, you should use them at and things like that.
Right.
It's so much easier to DIY now than in old timey days when it was like, okay, I'm gonna experiment here and I'm gonna try and Paul told me to do this anyway. He's like, make 15 milliliter bottles of every flavor that you have and test them out. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I have like 50 flavors here already. I'm not gonna do that. And Paul does own an e-liquid line and in Australia. He's always looking for companies that want to move to Australia or that need help getting into the Australian market. Because, Aussie's one of those places where, people are hungry for liquid. And obviously there's not as many American companies that are doing business in Australia because of the horrible way that the market is over there and the rules and everything. But
see Keith's tweet. His comment.
Well, it moved.
Keith's doing what he said he would never do. That he's converting to a hybrid shop. I'll have my doors open. That allows me to help vapors in some way. Fuck them. That's a drink word. Now, that brings up a statement I saw on Twitter a while back. Not speakeasy, but private clubs, private vaping clubs I heard about, and it's probably been talked about before, are probably going to happen.
Well, I know that in New Jersey they tried that and they got smacked for it.
Did they? Okay. I'm not inside
the thought process was because in New Jersey they have a public use ban. And somebody said, well, they did it at an event, right? They tried this is a private club for the event.
Oh, the one that they couldn't vape inside? Oh, I didn't know that. I only knew about the one.
And you have to look at every state's exemption when it comes to the tobacco control in that state, because everybody thought that you could smoke in every VFW in the United States because they're a private club. That is not true.
Right.
Every
cigar clubs.
Cigars, they're different.
Right.
The wording specifically gives cigar shops an exemption in some states and not all states. Right. So, it's different. And you can't make assumptions. You actually have to read the rules and read the law and understand what the law says. So there's not an automatic exemption from tobacco smoking rules in every state because they're all different.
I am going to encourage those types of thoughts, though. Period.
Well, it's good to look into. It's good to look into. Just open your business in your house. Some states allow you to have commercial in residential, and then you're in your own home, and then people can't. There's fucking ways. Bye, Dan. Dan said he's leaving. Everybody say bye to Dan.
See, Dan.
So yeah, it's everybody has to do their skullduggery and piracy in different ways depending on where you are. Obviously there's going to be we already have a very huge DIY community, and I can guarantee there are many people in that community that are willing to help out people that smoke or that vape and don't want to go back to smoke. We're going to go back to the community where people are going to help each other. And I think that might be okay for a little while until we fight and save everything. But there's going to be a lot of people that lose their businesses in between the time that doomsday happens and shit happens and actual political action happens. The pot people never thought that pot was ever going to get legalized.
Nope.
I mean, they fought.
Yeah.
And those went state. Those pretty much went state by state, right?
Fought. Well, it's still federally illegal.
Correct.
And many states have said, "Fuck you, we're going to legalize it because we need the money."
And that brings me to have you spoken to your local state representatives and made a good decision with that relationship? Steve, I know you're in Massachusetts. You're fucked either way. But locally, I'm assuming that you had done that. But again, you get a blank face with the assistants and the pages, and then they take it to their boss or representative, and they go, "Yeah, we're not touching it because there's no money."
But, it was purely a revenue decision.
Yeah. I'm from Fitchburg. I know how Massachusetts works.
Oh, are you really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I'll drive right straight through, but I ain't stopping anymore. After about 70 years, there's no family physically in Mass that I could think of.
Yeah.
Some states are fucked. Michigan with Mark, Gretchen Wilson, probably whatever her name is, will probably
Gretchen Wilson.
Visit. Yeah, whatever it is, whatever her.
That's
Gretchen.
That's Caitlyn Jenner.
Gretchen we'll probably come visit him first. You know,
I put the pictures side by side on a show.
Caitlyn.
That's Caitlyn Jenner.
California's fucked. New York's fucked. Yeah. Michigan's fucked. Mass is out of the question as well. So when
laws in the country.
Yeah. And people said it would never happen because, like you said at the beginning, you've got the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it is.
Yeah.
And they don't care. This is unfucking believable. That's a drink word for the.
But you're drinking coffee.
Cigarettes in Mass after all the taxes is upwards of $10-12 now.
Yeah. And I was one of those guys that ran up to the border and grabbed cigarettes and beer.
Yeah.
So and I have friends in Massachusetts still who say they're doing a New Hampshire run. I know exactly what they're doing. Yeah, I've screenshotted it and put it on Twitter a couple times.
And the state has acknowledged how much revenue was lost.
Exactly.
I think it was around $90 million they estimated.
Yeah.
In
it's
lost.
insane.
They don't care.
They don't care. Right.
Well, I'm still seeing. I'm trying to find it. I did it earlier and I couldn't find it, but I got a reply on one of my tweets and it was from somebody saying, "Oh, nothing's going to happen. We're too big for the government to do this to."
Oh my God!
I mispronounced bitch.
That's a really naive statement.
Yeah, that comes from somebody who has apparently not been around long enough.
Was that the Trump tweet that you had?
I'm trying to find it.
I saw one. I've
gotten so many tweets now that it's hard for me to find shit. I
purposely did. Now you know why I can't find my tweets. I purposely did not comment under one of those because I assumed they were just as naive as could be.
Well, I didn't reply to it either, but I did read it. I did read it. Yeah. The reply was nothing's going to happen because we're too big for the government to do this to, and I'm just like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, you apparently haven't been around to see. I can remember just a few years ago, Winston came out with a new cigarette. It was on the market for 6 months. They had gotten marketing orders and everything, and they wrote a letter. They sent an order out. We're revoking your marketing orders. You pull that product today. And that product was pulled in one day in every convenience store in the United States. Like it was gone.
Yeah.
So, they went after, I can remember when one of my mom's bosses sold vitamins. What's the big vitamin?
Herbalife.
Herbalife. Yeah. They went after Herbalife and crushed Herbalife.
Yeah.
Like Herbalife was like $1 billion business, and like they're just now slowly crawling out of the fuck for that. I mean, they went after nutraceuticals and vitamin companies and
nutraceuticals.
That's what I mean. It was vitamin supplements and health and herbal things, and they were making all sorts of claims and blah blah blah, and they fucking hammered them and crushed an entire industry overnight. So they can do it. I've seen them do it. I can remember when they did it.
Steve brought up another good point earlier.
Too big to fail argument is
too big to fail, but he last week somebody said in the chat or online, I don't remember for us, but customer came into New York in a New York shop. Like, what do you mean flavors are gone? So they don't know. He says, and Steve said earlier that shop owners don't even know what PMTA is.
No.
No, I mean they're not filing. All they're doing is ordering product and putting it on a shelf and selling.
No idea.
And it doesn't really involve them because they're not going to file the PMTA. One day they're gonna try to place orders for product and find out that they don't have as many products or no product to put on the shelf, depending on how draconian they want to be with this. There's no way for us to predict. I mean, I can make guesses. Demetrius can make guesses, and our guesses may not align with reality, or he might be right and I might be wrong, or I might be right and he might be wrong. Nobody knows. Nobody can tell what this is going to be until it happens.
Shit show.
I mean, Steve is saying that they're going to put in what they can for a PMTA, but there's no guarantee that it is going to be accepted, that it's going to take very long for them to go through there and reject them. A lot of people think that they're going to be that's going to take them so long. It's going to take them so long because they're going to get so many that it could be a year before they actually process these. But like I said, I've spoken to people and they're telling me that they can manage the initial phase of this via software, that a human being won't look at it until after it's been scanned by the computer for having all of the requirements. And if that's the case, that can happen very quickly.
Send them paper.
Well, they're pretty much demanding that these have to be submitted electronically in a specific format.
No, they have okayed paper submissions, thumb drive submissions.
Well, the thumb drive it still has to be done in the format that they requested, though.
Well, you just have to put your documents in folders that correspond to module.
Right.
So
the bot
that I think will parse quickly are the ones submitted through their portal. And I think folks are saying, no, not going to do it.
They can digitize. I mean, depending on, you got to consider that the Joule PMTA was over 100,000 pages.
Right.
I believe the not Avail, but the other one from the other e-liquid company was 60,000 pages. They can digitize that pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to work on a Docutech IBM machine that you could scan like 1,000 pages in like a minute.
Yeah.
And then once it's digitized, the bot can go through it really fast.
Yeah, they're looking for key components by module. There's 7 total modules.
So if they don't have all of the parts, they can get a rejection letter out pretty quick.
Yeah. So,
I don't want to be a negative asshole about this, but I just want people to be aware that, and sitting there with your fingers crossed is a shitty way to do your business. It's a shitty way to have to do your business.
Yeah.
Crossing your fingers and praying that people, I said it last week, there is no way that you should fucking have to work this hard to get permission from the government to save people's lives.
I know, it's shameful.
You're begging.
I understand that you need to be able to validate, recall procedures and the physical components, the chemical makeup of the product. I understand all of that. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Where the suspicion is it appears to be an attempt to parse the industry, not an attempt to bring you out from the shadows into the fold. That's not what they're doing.
So Tom is amazed that a PMTA is 100,000 pages. If you look at, for example, if you look at Swedish Match's snooze application, that was over 300,000 pages.
Yeah.
So I believe I heard somebody say that the Joule application was 3 stories tall.
10
stories tall.
And two things I heard.
I don't have a page count for that. But yeah, so obviously the science, the body of science, not the Joule. Was it the Joule one that they bragged about how many new scientific studies that they included in their?
They did their own, yeah.
It was like over 115 scientific studies that they had conducted. Yeah. Paul says the IQOS PMTA is 42 gigabytes of data.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, RJ Reynolds they have a beautiful science center in Geneva, Switzerland, where it is the highest tech research. And I've seen a video of it where they take a tour of it. It is beautiful. And they have an army of scientists working for them 24/7. So for them to cobble together science for their product is nothing. They don't have to ask scientists They don't have to pay new scientists or hire third-party scientists. They have the scientists. If you look at the PMTAs for the newest cigarettes, combustible cigarettes, there are hundreds of thousands of pages. So, the thing is with these, for example, the Avail PMTA is like $10 million. I don't know how many pages. Somebody told me an astronomical number. I don't know how many pages that thing is, but it got accepted rapidly within a few days of them submitting it. It was accepted, and it was announced that it was accepted. So, yeah, I mean, you have to look at what they've done in the past to see what they're going to do now. I mean, that's the only way. That's the only way that we can look at this. I mean, if you follow the Swedish Match history of Swedish Match and their work to get the PMTA, it took 4 presidents for them to get full approval. Like they were there for 4 different administrations working to get their PMTA approved.
The missing element here that I think is difficult to predict is what is the FDA's intent? Is it their intent to quickly parse, reject, and get them the hell off? Or is it to delay? Because the court order doesn't say they need to take action. They just said they need to enforce that date.
Well, statutorily, the actual deeming itself has a timeline in it. And obviously the timeline is fucked because of all the extensions, but there's a length of time that's important in there. They have 1 year, according to the actual PMTA, if they follow that guidance. Right. From the time that they accept your PMTA, they have 1 year to approve it. If you don't receive marketing orders within that calendar year, you're supposed to remove your product from the market until they do respond. Now, they may not. I mean, they're allowed to selectively enforce parts of that, but technically it's written in there that they have 1 year. And if you do not receive your acceptance or your marketing orders,
up to, yeah.
If you don't receive your marketing orders within 1 calendar year, you're supposed to pull off the market anyway. Technically. God knows. We don't know. But from the original language of the original deeming from 2016, that's in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we got fucked. All these extensions technically fucked everybody because everything was scheduled in the deeming to occur on certain timelines. So you register your product by this date. You have this much time to submit this part, the register product ingredients, and then there was they were all done in phases. Once the extension happened, all the deadlines got removed. And then when the FDA got forced to push it back, everything that was done in steps all is due now. Right. So, everything was done in stagger steps. So you register your product, you submit your ingredients, then you do this, then you do this, and it was all done so that you could not easily, but it was done in a staggered way. Mm-hmm. And then when when we got the extension, we got everything pushed back 2 years. All of those deadlines got fucked up.
Right.
And then when the judge pushed everything back, everything got fucked up again.
But for a business, I mean, a business plans expenses like that, at least a year out. And when they took a year back, Jesus Christ, now what?
And considering, I don't know, I don't care who you listen to, but I listen to the people that are smart and that have done this before and that have worked with FDA labs, and there's a limited number of places where this testing can be done.
Yeah, and COVID impacted their output.
Right. Mm-hmm. And there were people that were pushing this agenda or pushing this idea that you could just send that you could just send this stuff to any lab. And I'm like, no. You can't just use some university lab or whatever. They have to be people that are knowledgeable and that are listed by the FDA as trusted sources. You can't just go to any lab and spend, pennies on the dollar on your testing. It has to be done at these places. There's like 7 labs that can do the stuff that are credentialed for this stuff.
It's similar to Dr. Farsalinos and I can't remember the other guy's name, nicotine surveys. The survey that he did was done through FDA familiarity of their software, and therefore it was accepted. I've never heard anything since, but that's the way they like it. These labs are qualified, right? So it's not
See, and I we have friends that are trying to move into different things to stay in the business. I totally understand that. We had people talking. I understand that somebody said something about glassware and some alternative and different things. It just hurts my heart that this industry that started to get people off of combustible tobacco, some of them are selling combustible product now.
Right.
And they have to.
Yeah.
They have to.
Think of how many shops. I mean, if liquids truly become scarce, think of how many shops, how much those folks invested in those brick and mortar shops. Think of how much they're going to lose.
Some of these guys are tied into like 3-year leases. And they have to do something to pay the rent because the landlords don't give a shit if you can't sell the product. So I understand it. And the part that, obviously it's sad that it has to happen, but you got to, do what you got to do to feed your family. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of anything that's combustible. Somebody just sent me, Paul just sent me something about the FDA going after Delta 8 or whatever. I don't know anything about that industry at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I can't answer anything about that because I work in an industry, whether it was illegal or not in Texas, I can't use those products because I get drug tested a lot, so, there's a chance that, somebody could do it wrong and not get, and I could be over the legal limit, or, the company could have a zero tolerance. And if I test for THC or for, something that I'm not supposed to have, I could lose my job. So I can't. So I don't look into it because I can't use it anyway. So there's that.
I just want to share a crazy quick little anecdotal story just to highlight the absurdity of PMTA. So meeting the PMTA requirement is obviously financially burdensome, the amount of time. It's a massive loophole to jump through. It's not insurmountable. It's just an incredible commitment of resources in terms of time and money. So essentially around September 9th, the federal government is going to tell me, high likelihood, you guys are done. And they're going to say that to about 99% of all of those submissions that they receive.
Mm-hmm.
That same week, I'll be picking up a piece of paper from the state of Massachusetts that says I can manufacture cannabis products legally in my state with no FDA intervention whatsoever. So I can't make a vapor product that will save a life, but I can manufacture on the state a checklist from the state to manufacture a drug. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
So I will exit the vapor space, enter the cannabis space, and one of them was burdensome to the point where we simply couldn't, no matter how hard we wanted to stay, we couldn't stay. But on the cannabis side, virtually, little to no regulation. I'm not saying cannabis isn't regulated. It is regulated. But to compare the regulatory
fairly regulated. Fairly regulated.
Say again?
It's fairly regulated.
Reasonably regulated. Yeah. But my point is to make a vapor product, you can't compare the regulatory burdens of a vapor product to cannabis. It's not even the same fucking ballpark.
Well, I mean,
game.
they have 50 years of advocacy and science.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the government owns the patents for all of the fucking cannabinoid oils, all of them. So they have the market cornered on research with those oils and extracts. So they have all this science. So we need the government to patent nicotine so that they'll pay for all the fucking science.
Don't start with me, Patrick.
I mean, I think it's funny that the government feels that they can fucking patent a natural extract, but they did.
Start with me, Patrick.
They did. I mean, when I lived in Mississippi, Mississippi State University has one of the largest scientific grow centers for cannabis in the United States. They have fields of fucking marijuana at Mississippi State University because they're one of 3 universities in the United States that were licensed to grow and do science on pot.
Research.
They have some good shit there too. Never mind.
Can we hold on? Paul just made an interesting comment. I'd like him to elaborate on that.
That was what I was saying. Like he sent me a message that showed like something from one of the FDA portals that it's no longer accepting. So I don't know what that means either. So
yeah, maybe Paul can elaborate. What do you mean by that, Paul? That's interesting.
Yeah, this is what he sent me.
Crunch time. No shit.
So I have a side question, Steve.
Yeah, please.
How does it feel to be proven guilty instead of being innocent in the business you're in?
Oh man, it's a great question because like I said, when we first started doing this, we thought we were heroes. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We would hear from customers and say, "Oh my God, I'm going to get more time with my kids. I feel better. My doctor's reporting back better blood oxygen levels, better lung function." And we thought, "Oh my God." The consumers created a solution to one of the longest standing problems in this country. And we thought we were heroes. And then they made us feel like we were drug dealers and criminals. And it's just an awful feeling. Like, here's a great example. I'm so glad you asked this question. My kids, they come home and they ask, my teacher asks what you do for a living. And I really didn't feel comfortable answering that question. And I'm like, oh. That is embarrassing, because I think what we do is noble and awesome.
Yes.
And we're made to feel like, we're just rotten human beings, hooking every kid in a high school bathroom. It's the way they've tarnished the mission of vapor is sinful. It's awful. So yes, I do. I am embarrassed to tell people, to tell uninitiated folks, folks that don't understand the story of vapor. Most people are horribly ignorant to the story of vapor. And I feel embarrassed to tell them what I do, but I feel proud when I meet a vapor who says, "Oh my God, you're one of those guys that what you have done is amazing."
Yes.
That have gotten away from tobacco.
Yeah.
But
my kids' teachers keep asking them, what does he do?
Well, sure.
Well, I mean, they're indoctrinating them in school. I mean, Fig talked about the school district where his kid goes to school, or I don't know if since he moved, he goes to the same school or not. But they got $1 million to put together an anti-vaping program.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, they're indoctrinating these kids in school.
Yeah.
And obviously the number one group that advertises vaping to kids is not Juul, is not Open Vapor. It's the fucking assholes. It's truth. It's campaign for tobacco-free kids. It's all these people that hang posters up in school.
FDA.
Juul. Well, I mean, I forgot. You made me. You almost finished this show without showing the newest anti-vaping commercials that our tax money is paying for. Have you seen these?
Play it.
Oh, I'll go get one off of Twitter.
Well, Greg earlier said, but all the tweets are from bots. So why would they believe the grassroots? Because we're right. So my question to you was kind of a twofold thing. You're guilty until proven innocent. You have to prove your innocence.
Yeah.
And that pisses me off, and that's why I moan and bitch and complain all day on Twitter. And Greg's point of being bots is that they just made us, these are unbelievable people. These are tobacco companies. These are evil bastards who don't do anything except what you just said, target kids in the fucking bathroom. I would give $1,000 to anybody that can show me a vape shop owner walking into a fucking high school and giving kids shit, because those people are former fucking smokers who are not going to give little kids shit.
Of course not.
Oh my God, that pisses me off.
It is maddening, but that is the narrative that the ants have painted us in. And, and it's believable to the uninitiated, because vaping is clearly a problem. I shouldn't say it's clearly a problem. The statistics on youth use of vapor is around the same as use of cigarettes. It's that segment of kids that's going to do what you tell them not to do.
It's the at-risk kids. But here, look at this. This is one of the new real cost pieces.
No, this is an ad.
Yeah. So watch.
Times during class, and I tell her to talk to him, and it's like, oh, ew.
Oh my God.
You dirty bastards.
So I actually had to ask, because this is the real cost. So this is an FDA funded campaign, right? So I said, wow, FDA, FDA and FDA tobacco. Is this an anti-vaping campaign, or are you showing how dirty kids are? Maybe a commercial telling parents to teach their kids about hygiene? No, you'd never make a commercial telling parents to do their job. No, you wouldn't want that.
No.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these. There's like maybe 10 of these, 5 or 10 of these that are all like 30-second to little ads, little things like that. There's one where there's a student athlete rummaging through their locker and through their backpack, and one of the classmates says, "Come on, the bus is leaving, let's go." And she's still frantically looking for something, and the bus is pulling away, and you then see her. She's found her vape pen, and she missed the bus to go to the sporting event because she was frantically nicking out and couldn't get on the bus to be with her teammates. And they're like, "Oh, well, this is what nicotine addiction does to your kids." Yeah. And there's one where a boy steals money out of his mom's wallet when she's not looking to go buy vape stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is our tax dollars. This is FDA money is funding the real cost campaign, and they were the ones that hung the pictures all over the school last year about Juul and about vaping in schools, and there was a couple that may have been parodies about, oral sex is better than vaping or something like that. There was a couple of those.
Was that just a joke? Was that?
I think that one was a parody one, but there's a couple of them that are also kind of snarky. So it's really, I mean, the official ones are kind of snarky and smart aleck, And, that one was probably a parody one, but it almost fit with the official ones.
It rolls right in. Then nobody knows the difference. And then the phrase Karens.
Yeah.
Send all your complaints to me. Then the Karen van.
All your Karen letters
and Chads
to Kevin.
Chads and Karens.
We got a hate letter because Kevin.
It's a term.
I think Kevin should be the male version of Karen.
Isn't it a Chad? I think that's already been done. You're a Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
But I think we should move it over to Kevin.
Either way,
I get hate mail. I get hate mail on my YouTube channel because Kevin is saying nasty things about Karens from people that are named Karen.
That's right.
There's a couple people that watch the show every week named Karen.
And I love them.
Karen Morin. Karen Morin is a very awesome vape advocate.
Yes.
So yeah.
There you go. Chatbots. Is that what Chatbot?
Chatbot. But okay, so we're actually 3.5 hours into our little show. So yeah, I think we need to probably start off with our parting thoughts. Steve, are you familiar with parting thoughts?
No, school me.
So just things you want people to think about, things that that you hope for, things those things.
I honestly, my only thoughts would be if anybody in the chat, anybody that's watched this, have supported us, enjoyed our liquids, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all of the advocates, folks that are helping to do the work, spread positive messages, help to give this flailing industry, another day to exist. Thank you for all of that work. I can't say stay positive. I don't see any indicator that there's any reason for that. September 9th is going to be devastating, but if we continue to maintain our volume, hopefully something significant will happen. Thanks to all the good folks that are doing good work and allowing access to this to people that really need it. What we do is noble and good. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise.
Exactly.
Perfect. Kevin,
if you're going to exit the industry, I'm sad, as Patrick said earlier, that's going to happen. If you're transitioning, I'm glad you're able to. If you can also put snooze packages in or whatever it is that is available for people, and you also have a outlet for vaping products and you can still put those out, good on you. The people that are going to fly the pirate flag will fly those proudly. Some of them will hide them, but they're going to tell their customers. I got a funny feeling there's a lady that has a detrimental cancer that's going to probably still get her liquid as long as she's alive, somewhere in the Boston greater area. Those are the people that I've been fighting for, whether we knew each other or not. Steve, it was a pleasure with you being on here for insight.
You're amazing. Thank you for everything you've done, my friend. It's taken me way too long to thank you for your work.
You're very, 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 very welcome. All the people in the chat, same thing. Some of these people, like you said earlier, amazing fucking human beings, period. From you were at the rally, I was at the rally. Neither one of us probably saw each other or knew each other. And it's crazy because I didn't know anybody's face because everybody uses a different picture. I've got red hair, so I was recognized to some extent on the Facebook side, but nobody knew me from Twitter really. And that's okay. I wasn't there to be a hero. I was just there to support you and everyone like you. That's what's important. Troops in the room. He's done amazing things. I don't know everybody that has a business in the room necessarily, but this is way too important. So snooze is something that people can offer. If you want to put a patch in a gum and say, I used to be in the vapor business and now this is legal, something, so keep fighting. Yep. I don't know what's going to happen September 9th either, but I'm not shutting up. Patrick.
Nope.
So, every week we come up here and we do what we can. I can't do a lot of things, but I can scream. I can put words together, and I know how to talk, and sometimes I know how to talk. And our job has always been to teach you how to stand up for yourself and fight for this industry. Because we can't be everywhere. There's no sense in us being everywhere because they don't want to listen to us anyway. They want to listen to you because you are their voters. You are their constituents. And, I think that we offer a lot of information for people. We try to teach people how to think critically. It's important. So, we have this thing called the PMTA. We've been talking about it, and I think most of you know what it is. But it is a way for you, manufacturers of these products or any tobacco product, to get permission from the government to sell something that you make, right? One of those requirements is that you have to prove that your product is for the betterment of public health, which for cigarettes is impossible, but they still get products approved, right? So why is it that they set the bar so fucking high for an industry that they've admitted? Zeller has said in front of Congress, if everybody that smoked switched to one of these products, it would be a net benefit for public health. He's already admitted it. We should put his fucking quote on every PMTA and say, okay, you admitted it. We don't need to do anything else because you admitted it would be a benefit for public health. Yet they've made it so that it's impossible for any small to medium-sized business in this industry to comply, to get approved, just so that you can sell a product that they've admitted would be a benefit for public health. I mean, the cigar industry, God bless them. I love cigars, but I've had to, for the last week, go on Twitter specifically hammering on the fact that the government has given them a pass. That is a product that we know causes cancer. Doesn't matter if it's a machine made or a hand rolled cigar, combustible tobacco, when taken into the mouth and then through the throat and into the airways and into the lungs, causes cancer. Mouth cancers mostly, but it does cause cancer. And they got a pass. So I had this tweet because I'm working on a cigar e-liquid right now. I said, can someone ask FDA Tobacco Secretary Azar to ask the judge if my cigar flavored e-liquid is covered under the indefinite exemption to the PMTA that was issued today? Because
brilliant,
they're fucking idiots.
Brilliant.
I mean, literally, they're going after flavors, right? So this will be a tobacco flavored e-liquid, and it's a cigar. So they've already exempted cigars. So shouldn't my cigar flavored e-liquid automatically be given an exemption? Shouldn't I be able to go directly to market with this product? Because the judge said cigars get a pass. Premium cigars get a pass. I'll make this by hand. So this will be premium e-liquid. But no. I guarantee you the answer is no. Because, again, they're not looking at science. They're just looking at what they want to look at. This is all based on ideology. It's based on what it looks like. They don't like the way it looks because it looks too much like smoking. So it must be smoking. In their mind, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it can't be a goose. It has to be a fucking duck. So, we need to keep in mind that this system was never designed for anything other than combustible cigarettes. The judge basically said that. This is not the right pathway for this product, for cigars. It is not the right pathway for e-liquid. And it never should have been. We should have been fighting this. I mean, we've been fighting this, but we've been using the same method of attack every time. And we need to alter the playbook. We need to change our tactics. And after doomsday, the fight is still going to be happening. You don't believe that the advocacy groups are going to stop advocating. And I guarantee you, people like me and Kevin and maybe even Steve and a bunch of the other people in the chat room, we're going to be fighting in our own ways. We're going to be flying the pirate flag. We're going to be helping smokers everywhere that we can do it, because I am not willing to let someone die when I can stop it. I'm not going to ask permission. I shouldn't have to ask permission. The government should be going, please save everybody's life that you can. And they're not, because there's no money in it for them. There's no money in it for them. And if you think that this has any other, there's any other reason for the government to not want us to do this, it's because of the fucking money. Politicians can't cash a check from us if we don't write a check for them. The FDA can't levy user fees if we don't ask permission. That's all they want. The states can't pay off their debts because they took out loans that they can't pay. They don't care about your life. They only care about the dollars that you bring into them. And if that means that they have to kill you slowly with combustible tobacco so that they can get your tax money, they're going to do that. If they really cared about saving smokers, instead of signing the master settlement agreement, they would have just banned cigarettes on that day. But they didn't care about smokers. They fucking want the money. And there is no other explanation. You are greenbacks in the bank account. You're dead or you're alive. It doesn't matter to them. Period. So anyway, every Friday night we do this. When we're done with this, I want you to go and find your wife and kiss her. I want you to go hug your kids. You got Saturday and Sunday to go fishing. If you're Steve, go and hang out with your kids, do family stuff. Because you know what? Monday is rolling and we've got maybe 15 days. The rally is in DC on the 5th. If you can go, you should go. The more people that are there, obviously, please be safe. Cover your fucking face. Don't sneeze on people. Don't cough on people. Wash your damn hands. But go to the rally and preach. Stand there with your signs and scream. We're not going quietly.
Nope.
We may have to go, but we're going to make sure you know we were here. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks, everybody, for staying for the 3 hours and 45 minutes that we've been here. Come back next week. We'll be back, and I'm sure I will be cussing because Michelle Minton's going to be here, and I've got tons of questions, and I'm sure Kevin has tons of questions, and y'all in the chat room will have lots of questions, and we're going to have some fun because we always have fun. So anyway, peace out. Love you guys. Thanks for coming, Steve, and joining in and participating.
Very much.
And redheaded devil over there, you're not too bad either. So be good. We're out. Bye.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
We're exporting a whole lot of really bad and dangerous rhetoric, bad research, and unfortunately it's being picked up and amplified in other countries.
It's the same battle, Mr. Myers. We've been at it before. They want to addict these kids, this time to an e-cigarette, which has a chemical that's addictive. We know what it leads to. Sadly, it leads to tobacco addiction, disease, and death.
I'm going to get you addicted to nicotine. I have a customer for life. We have hundreds of cases nationwide where people have gotten sick or died using these devices.
Look what they're trying to do. All the delicious flavors of e-cigarettes are poison.
They're not people giving up smoking. They're not people that ever smoked before. Most people that vape never smoked before. Just think if your kid was doing this and winds up with an IQ 10 or 15 points lower than he or she would have had for the rest of her life.
Addiction is being fueled by kid-friendly flavors and kid-friendly cool marketing. It is outrageous that these companies specifically market their bad products to kids. Today, right now, it would appear the wildfire of e-cig use among teenagers, high schoolers, middle schoolers, has not let up.
There is a moral panic over it.
There is a moral panic.
And they can't find anything wrong with it, so they're hell-bent to find something.
We're worried that, in fact, a lot of members of the public still think that using an e-cigarette is as harmful as smoking a cigarette. I mean, I have said that it would be tragic if smokers didn't quit and carried on smoking because they hadn't tried an e-cigarette, because they were worried about the safety of an e-cigarette.
The most disheartening thing is still the anti-choice rhetoric, the desire to enforce this quit or die mentality and refuse to allow individuals to reduce their risk unless they're willing to give up everything.
I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.